I'd like to call the Caroline County Board of Supervisors meetings for February 11, 2020 to order. First on the agenda, if Reverend Fields would come forward and do the invocation for us. Could we all please stand?
I say good evening to the Board of Supervisors. It's good to be here this evening. Let's always go to the Lord in prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together as one community, one county today. And we pray, Heavenly Father, that you would keep us all on one accord. And even the things that we discuss might be done decently and in order. And when it's all said and done, we can say it was good to have come together as brothers and sisters serving the same God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Can we remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are now going to go to opening board comments, and tonight I'm going to start with one opening board comment. As chairman of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, I feel a need to address a statement made on social media by fellow board member Clay Forehand last week. While the comments in question were made without the knowledge of myself or this board, my hope is that our community knows that these comments do not reflect my thoughts or the thoughts or position of the Caroline Board of Supervisors. Our shared goal as a board has always been and will always continue to be one of bringing citizens together and making decisions that are the best for everyone countywide. I'd like to close my statement with a quote made by a constituent who I also consider a friend, whose opinion I value greatly. Darrell Golden actually posted this on Mr. Forehand's apology found on his Facebook page. Let's heal as a community in Caroline County, Virginia, and work together and move forward. Thank you. Mr. Forehand?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to take a moment to speak to a comment that I did make on social media a couple of weeks back and the controversy that has been created by it. The comment I made was intended to provide some context to the benefits of an announced business coming to Caroline County. During this impromptu conversation, this subject strayed and covered a variety of unrelated topics. As part of this, I made a comment regarding classroom discipline that included examples surrounding a student's race or disability, and the built-in protections of those groups as being factors in the complex web of reasons that teaching today is very hard. Regardless of the point that I was trying to make, my comment was not worded well and left some readers with the impression that I was attacking students with disabilities and people of color. While not everyone interpreted the comments in a negative way, some did. The fact that I wrote something that was interpreted the way it is disheartening to me and has bothered me since it occurred. Because this is not what I am about. It's not what I teach my children. It's not something that I surround myself with personally, politically, or professionally. It was never my intent to offend anyone, be insensitive, or to single out anyone or any group and paint them in a negative light. I do own what I wrote, grammar errors and all, and I want to apologize to those who read it and have had negative emotions stirred within them from it. That was never my meaning, and for that I am truly sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just have a couple. I want to start. Last week, I was made aware by some of the constituents on Facebook that a post was made by Supervisor Forehand. I do not agree with the words that were used in that post. Please understand that when members of the Board of Supervisors make posts or statements on social media, they are not speaking for the entirety of the board. Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to bring up some other stuff. We'll bring board comments.
Absolutely.
I had a couple of constituents actually call me about this. The forms that the Commissioner of Revenue sends every year to check your personal property.
Correct.
there's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, I've had a few constituents bring up the fact that it seems to be kind of an archaic process, and it should be kind of a pay by exception, as far as change by exception rule. Other localities have gone that way, Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg. There's no form, and I would imagine from the Commissioner Revenue's office perspective, it's a lot of labor-intensive process on them to get those forms up to us, whatever the cost of mailing as well. So I was wondering if we could possibly look at that and see what it is to change that over and talk to the Commissioner Revenue.
We can put that as a topic. I believe we visited that a year or two ago.
Yep.
And there are a lot of complications to that, but I don't mind adding that as an agenda item probably in March or April, because it's already done. February 1st is passed. So
Absolutely.
we have
It's something that we have time for.
to actually look at probably after budget time would be a lot more convenient.
Thank you. Also, I do want to thank Mr. Schiebel for the reports. We've started getting the monthly reports. Thank you, Mr. Parton and Mr. Cully, for getting those reports to us. I'm talking about the reports on the trash pickup. The county has invested in a couple of 3 employees plus different ways of trying to pick up the litter on our roads. I think all of you can see when we drive down Ladysmith Road or Page Road, it's pretty bad, and it just seems sometimes to be a losing battle. But Mr. Schiebel's actually, we're getting emails on how much trash is being picked up in certain areas, so I do want to thank him. Also, this past week, my neighbor, Mr. Westbrook, who's a deputy in the Sheriff's Department, he suffered a medical emergency, and he's in the recovery process right now. So I do ask that everyone, Mr. Westbrook has been my neighbor since I moved here in 2004, and I do ask everyone to kind of keep him in your prayers. I know we've been getting updates from the Sheriff's Department. Finally, I want to thank everyone who was involved this past week, a week ago on the Polar Bear Plunge, and Mr. Forehand was there to support. I know there's several people in the audience that were there. Ms. Long came out. Mr. Seeley was there. I can't thank the people enough. It was an unbelievable record-setting amount. The plunge raised about $34,000 for the charities that participated in Caroline County. We do have the winning organization. I don't know where she is. Yes, Jamaica, we have Caroline's Promise, won the Polar Cup, which is the organization that raised the most total money. I think it was over $7,000. So they had a lot of energy at the plunge. So I just want to thank, it's a really, really neat event. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, and it's nice to see the community leaders out as part of it. So once again, thank everyone who participated in that. And Mr. Thomas made a deal, did he not? Mr. Thomas made a deal that he would be going in next year in the water, so he did say that. So if he raises $1,000, he goes in the water. So do appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clyde. Mrs. Long?
I was just going to congratulate the organization for putting on the Polar Bear Plunge. It was well done. Thank Mr. Cully for being our music man, and Bobby for being the MC again, and for all the people that came out and supported those who were brave enough, I see a couple of them down there, to go into the water. Not quite as good as the year it had ice on it, but it was still cold, I'm sure. So thank you all who participated. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Mr. Clayton for reading that statement. When I read the Facebook notice, I was troubled because I had not heard comments like that from him before. Matter of fact, most of the comments were about, we always talked about his children, but they were very personal. And as an educator, I can only imagine what parents were thinking of who have children who have special needs, or children who are of color. So I'm hoping that this is a learning process for all of us, that words do matter. Words do matter. We have to think about our words before we speak them. So, Mr. Forrance, again, I appreciate your comments and hoping that we don't cross this path again. I
want to thank Mr. Black for being persistent with polar bear plunge. I can go back to a couple of years ago when he asked the board to sponsor the polar bear plunge, and he and I went back and forth about whether we should sponsor or whether it was our responsibility. And it really shows you that if you're persistent and you want something bad enough, a lot of good can come of something. So I want to applaud Mr. Black for being persistent and the folks that participated in the polar bear plunge. My last comment is I had a call from a constituent who asked about rifle hunting in Caroline County. And I'm going to ask the board to put that on the agenda sometime so we can have an open discussion with the community about whether there should be rifle hunting in Caroline County. As I told the gentleman, I used to hunt years ago, but I'm adamantly opposed to rifle hunting. So I'm going to put my position out first, that I'm not supporting it, but I'm willing to have a discussion, because I think that's what we have to do. And I can only pass one thing to you, Clay. The Bible says when you suffer for your own transgressions, take it patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Thomas?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. And I just have a couple of quick ones. I forgot to mention last month I was here for a Martin Luther King program right here in the auditorium that featured Caroline's own treasurer, Ms. Cleo Coleman. And for those of you who don't know, Mrs. Coleman does a performance as Harriet Tubman. And she is so good at this performance that you actually think she is Harriet Tubman. And she actually cries during a performance and makes you almost cry. So if you ever have a chance to do that, I would suggest that you see that performance as well worthwhile. And then to Mr. Forehand, I think it is good that you made an apology. I too wanted to discuss your Facebook comments and the reactions the past week. I've had quite a few constituents call me and talk to me about it, and I did speak to Mr. Forehand about it. I told him I thought his comments were insensitive and didn't really lack understanding, and that's part of it because we all come from different backgrounds. Some of us very different backgrounds, and I really just tried to share my perspective on race with him and explain why many others felt that way. I know it's 2020, but we still have racial issues in the country. And comments like that kind of remind folks of the issues they had and the scars that they've gone through in their lives. And you know, today, still, students of color are disciplined at higher rates. And studies have confirmed that they've been punished more often, or the punishment has been harsher. And for that reason, we do need those federal and state programs that protect race, sex, disability. Those programs will never make up for past issues, but they try to make the playing field a little closer to level. As a matter of fact, this very building that we sit in is here because black students were not allowed to attend the school that was supported by the state for white students only. Not so long ago, we had separate but unequal. I wish we could just flip a switch and things would be fair and even, but that's not quite the way it is. Now we can move past that. And to do so, I say it's okay to see color. When you get to a red light, you stop. When you get to a green light, you go. Color should not automatically be a red light. And that's the issue that we have now. And I think it's my intent that the county provide a diverse environment where all people are respected and treated fairly. I think this particular event will help us move on the dialogue that will get us there. Because the more we talk to each other, the more we understand each other, and the better we are. We are like, I don't want to quote the wrong person, but I think it was Frederick Douglass
When we're spread out like this, we're a little weaker, but when we come together, we're a lot stronger. So that's what we want to do, is come together and move forward. Ironic how God's plan works together. Happy Black History Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I am going to move on to amendments to the agenda. I have one based on several phone calls, and I've actually called Congressman Whitman's office, and it has to do with hunting at Fort A.P. Hill and it being shut down. And we've been asked if we would talk about a resolution for that, so if we could make that agenda item 15B, resolution for Fort A.P. Hill for hunting and fishing. They have shut
They
down.
said that you couldn't do it.
Correct. And I'm going to remove the update on finance status of Caroline County. Courtney Rogers, he is unable to be here this evening.
Bless you. Motion that.
So I have one removal and one addition.
Motion that we remove the update on financial status and add the discussion for resolution on AP Hill.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. First resolution. I know, but I was going to have to read.
No.
Okay. The first resolution, as everyone probably knows, and if they don't, February is Black History Month. The Board of Supervisors, as a tradition, always does a Black History Month resolution, and each year we actually dedicate this to an individual. Mr. Thomas will do that, but I'm going to read the actual resolution that I will give. I was going to present it to the NAACP, but I don't.
She's here. Mrs. Reverend Fields, or Reverend Mrs. Fields.
Okay.
She's a reverend.
I will do that. And the resolution reads as follows. A resolution declaring the month of February African American History Month in Caroline County. Whereas the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States of America includes numerous accomplishments and contributions of African Americans, and whereas Caroline County in particular has been fortunate to benefit from the contributions of its native sons and daughters of African descent, and whereas the contribution of these Caroline County natives are noteworthy and have benefited not only Caroline County, but in many cases the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States as well. Whereas the contributions of African Americans often goes unnoticed and unappreciated by many Americans, and whereas it is important and fitting to recognize and celebrate the significant role African Americans have played in the development of our great country, state, and nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of February as African American History Month in Caroline County and encourages county residents to take advantage of the presentations, displays, and other materials available to learn more about the contributions of African Americans. Adopted this day, 11th day of February 2020, signed by Clerk of the Board, Charles M. Cully, and myself, Jeffrey Seeley, and I'm going to present this to Mrs. Stevens.
Thank you.
Wait a second. You want to make your statement first?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Chairman of the Board, members of the Board of Supervisors, and to all present. On behalf of our President, Dwayne Phil Singer, we accept this award. His statement is as follows. The Carolina County NAACP will continue to be freedom fighters and fighters for social justice and equality in our beloved county. However, it is obvious from this past week and comments made that we still have a long way to go. Thank you, Reverend Dwayne Phil Senior, Branch President. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to do another one. I'm going to take pictures of it. It is Reverend Mrs. Fields.
Reverend, forgive me for
Can you raise and present her to that?
I was going to... Go ahead, Mark.
You're going to do her,
Right.
and then we're going to join you.
That's okay with you.
Is he okay?
Yeah, how many have we got?
Just the two of us first.
Just the two of you, okay. That'll work right
Like
there.
the with us, just the two of us.
Nice and all right here.
Can we take one with all of us?
Yeah.
And Mrs.
Most certainly can.
Reverend Mr. Lee. Okay.
Oh, right. The ever-changing problem.
That is something else.
I know, we're never right, Mark.
Okay, which one?
Almost. Jet black. Okay. That's good right there.
Ooh, one move. Don't breathe, anybody.
Yeah.
Destiny, you want to come closer?
Okay, right here. Nice and all. And one more, and I'll let you go. Thank you.
All right, so. Okay, you just want to stay there? Jeff? You just want to stay there?
Yeah,
Okay, back to the
that's fine.
Mark, you can
Mark,
stay
don't
there.
go anywhere.
You can stay there. As Mr. Seeley just stated, we traditionally present a resolution to the NAACP as part of Black History Month. That resolution presentation goes to the oldest civil rights association in America. So we thank them for that. And this year we're starting kind of a new tradition. It's kind of what I call a Hidden Figures tradition. And those of you who saw the movie know that those ladies went so long that they never got recognized until a few of them were dead. But this year we wanted to recognize someone who has been a leader in the county, but never really in the front line. This particular person was an election official, worked many years with the electoral board. This particular person is a leader in their church. And if I had to count someone who registered voters, this person would be at the top of the list. So on behalf of Caroline County, we'd like to recognize our first hidden figure, which would be Reaver Dolores Brewington. Bring her up.
I've got it. I've got it. I've got it. I've got it.
Reaver, you come to Roger. About time you came. This is for you. And Mark, can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Come on, you guys.
Come on in.
Okay. Someone,
Okay.
just
good.
why don't you
That's good,
come
Mark.
right
That's good,
around
Mark.
on the other
That's good,
side.
Mark.
Okay. Okay, let's. So this goes.
It's never easy.
Mark has
Never easy.
he's a professional.
We should have taped up here.
Yeah.
All right. One more or a couple? Okay, next smile right there.
Okay, now
One.
Can they all next?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody. Mark, Jeff, Clay. Lane. You hold it on your own, we'll all stand around you. Don't you have it now?
Nancy,
Nancy, you want to do it?
can't see you at all.
Come on up here.
Oh,
Okay, there we go.
That's good.
Oh, man, we're on a roll tonight.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. Right here. Okay, a couple more. One more. Play. Gotta pick up somebody? Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Chaperone.
I know you're not supposed to stand this long, so okay. You can go, you want to? Oh, okay.
Right,
Come stand over here.
right there, and then
I'm surprised. I had no idea why I was coming tonight. I was told there was a party for one of my friends. Oh. Yeah, and we thought it was here. So we go everywhere looking for the party. My daughter or my son would not tell me what's going on. But thank you all. It's been a pleasure working and doing for the county and for the public what I needed to do. And I wish and I pray that I will continue to do as much as I have done. And may God bless the board and thank the board for thinking about me. Thank you.
The next recognition is one that caught me off guard and was very sad for me. It's somebody that I've worked with for a very, very long time. Mr. Les Stanley was my planning commission member for 9 years, and due to family situations, he had to resign as a planning commission member. We had a long talk on the phone. He will be sorely missed and very difficult to replace. But I just want to recognize Mr. Stanley with a resolution from the board this evening, and it reads as follows. A resolution of appreciation for Les Stanley for his service on the Caroline County Planning Commission. Whereas Mr. Stanley served Caroline County as the Bowling Green District representative to the Caroline County Planning Commission from November 2010 until November 2019. Whereas he was selected to serve as the chairman of the commission by his peers in 2015 and continued to serve in that capacity until his resignation last year. Whereas as a member and chairman of the Planning Commission, he played an important role in promoting the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the citizens of Caroline County, and in planning and advising the Board of Supervisors on the orderly development of the community. And whereas Mr. Stanley has performed his duties with devotion, skill, distinction, and wisdom, whereas his leadership and thoughtful evaluation of all matters brought before him for consideration have been instrumental in the success of the Planning Commission and in helping shape the future of Caroline County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Stanley for his outstanding service on the Caroline County Planning Commission and extends its best wishes for a continued success in all future endeavors. Adopted this day, 11th day of February 2020. Charlie M. Cully, Clerk of the Board, and Jeff Seeley, Chairman. Mr. Stanley, if you'd come up. I really appreciate all the time, and people don't realize how much time the planning commission takes. Couple of pictures. No, not at all, right here. 'Cause
I was looking for the party also. I'm just kidding. I truly would like to thank Mr. Seeley for this outstanding opportunity to serve not only the people of the Bowling Green District of Caroline County. And when you're on this side, no matter what it may be, it's really an eye-opening and it's quite a learning experience. I would like the Board of Supervisors to know how much I appreciate you and what you have to do. And it's not easy. I always kidded the planning commission members, we were kind of the minor leagues. We pretty much tried to be the technical end. We would read things, we would look at it and really decide if we thought it was good for the county, then we were for it. If we had issues with it, we tried to get those corrected. And I really felt like we had a wonderful, wonderful relationship. And I think pretty close. Well, we were pretty right on the line. You know, y'all went a different way, and it was probably the best thing for the county that you decided. And I just want to commend you. I appreciate the service and dedication it takes to do that. I truly mean it. And it was an honor for me. And please come to the Planning Commission meetings. You're going to learn a lot there, I will tell you that. And again, thank you, Mr. Seeley, and it's been a real pleasure.
thank you. I was at the Fire and Rescue dinner and awards dinner last month and saw a lot of outstanding folks and a lot of people who put in a lot of time that a lot of us don't always recognize, see, or will realize how much time they put in. But we have with us tonight an individual who has spent more time than anybody else in the county to date in the volunteer fire and rescue business. So this evening, it's with great pleasure that I read a resolution. A resolution of appreciation for the volunteer district chief, Steve Parrish, for 60 years of service to the citizens of Caroline County. Exactly. Whereas volunteer district fire chief, Steve Parrish, has devoted his time and talents to the fire and EMS service for more than 60 years. He began his volunteer career in Caroline in 1960 in both Ladysmith and Bowling Green rescue squads. Whereas the volunteer district fire chief, Steve Parrish, is a longtime member of the Caroline County Fire and Rescue Service as a leader in the founding of the Upper Caroline Fire Department in 1973 and has since served as its only district chief since that time, while twice guiding the acquisition of land, construction of 2 fire stations, as well as the development and training of staff. District Chief Parrish has led his staff in the station, the community, and on more emergency incident scenes than can be counted. Today, despite a recent stroke, District Chief Parrish continues to lead his fire company while also continuing to set the example by reaching out to the community by coordinating the Upper Caroline Wounded Warrior Hunt with the local area American Legion posts. And whereas it is appropriate at this time to highlight volunteer district chief, Fire Chief Steve Parrish's many achievements and contributions, and to extend to him a special recognition in commendation for a job well done as he has dedicated his life to the service of others in Caroline County. And whereas volunteer District Fire Chief Steve Parrish has brought an underlying loyalty to the Caroline County Fire and Rescue Department, a clear understanding of the organizational needs and priorities, and a commitment to careful, defined objectives, a commitment to volunteerism, a wisdom born of experience, and the courage to always do the right thing for the right reason. Whereas volunteer District Fire Chief Steve Parrish has led in times of growth and times of struggles with wisdom, courage, patience, and longevity. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors does hereby thank and commend volunteer District Fire Chief Steve Parrish for his 60 years of dedicated and unselfish service to the Caroline County Department of Fire and Rescue and Emergency Management, and wishes him success in all future endeavors. Adopted this 11th day of February 2020, signed by the Clerk of the Board, Charles Colley, and Jeff Seeley as Chairman. Mr. Parrish, we're going to come down and see you.
All right, Rich, Amanda, since I know there's a good woman behind every good man, and you are there every time I am there, and he is there, these are for you with much appreciation for those volunteers.
Can't say it.
Sure you can.
I feel like I've said enough.
Yeah,
All I will say is that 60 years is a long time. And if somebody's got time to sit down with me, I'll be glad to tell you every bit of it.
Thank you.
How do you want to
how many want to be in this?
You want to do it against his name?
come on up?
I'll tell you what.
Right here?
Okay. This one gentleman in the very back there. Yeah, that's it. You got it.
You're on film?
Not hard. Okay, right here. Nice smile. And one more and I'll let you go. Oh, can you tip your down? That's it. Good, thank you.
Mark, we're going to try to do the whole board.
Come on up here and stand next to us. Come on, Anna, you too. That's good, right there's fine, and then we can fill in behind you.
Okay, I'll tell you what, why don't we do it right here?
Right here.
That way it gives them the whole aisle to back up. It's like a runway. Anna, come back here.
Yeah, you got to get me the wet swimming. We can have this.
No, y'all are supposed to stand in there too.
Yeah.
How we doing?
Getting there.
Back up to the door.
You got it.
Man, on a roll. Don't close your eyes.
Okay, Kevin, I'm gonna get the top of your head.
Oh, the
Okay, ma'am, flowers, just a look, that's it. That's it, I gotta see the fellows back there, okay, good. Okay, that's fine, okay, a couple more.
At least let us know they're coming.
One more, and I'll let you go.
Oh, my eyes are closed. You get no retakes.
Can't see anything.
Yeah, just Photoshop that in.
I know he's straight.
On this thing as long as you've been. Right.
I'm 64, that's what I was thinking. We already got our picture. Still every time. Okay, but this is the board's recognition to you. So, 60 years, a long time, Steve. Long time. Thank you. Can't help you next.
I was gonna say, my dad would say, don't put it on
Linda was holding the button down, and it was just going through, and I said, stop turning my TV so fast. But no, remember, don't turn it so fast. That's what I was talking about. Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Next on the agenda is a report from VDOT. Lynn Keenan, I didn't, there she is, I didn't see her. She didn't sit in the normal VDOT space, six back on the left, she just doesn't know.
Just trying to mix things up, we'll see. Do you have my presentation? Do you have it out? Oh, we don't have a big copy of it? All right, well, that makes this a little more tricky. I'm going to pull it up on my phone. All right, well, good evening. So just going over, I know your agenda's really full, so we'll go through this. And I apologize that it's not up on the big screen. So if you hop down to slide 3, where we go over the work orders overview, this is pretty consistent with the work orders we've been seeing coming in. We pulled that from January 1st of last year until January 30th of this year. So we had 823, yes, that would help, thank you. So we had 823 work orders that came in during that time. This is a bit of a skewed metric, as you see a lot of those are along I-95, so that's getting a lot of additional work orders that are coming in from 95, so those don't necessarily come in through the residency, but they'll be tracked similarly. So 135 of those were ditching, 55 pipes, vegetation, pavement, and debris. So this is coming in at approximately 11 work orders per day. The next slide shows our closure rate for work orders. We're doing pretty well, in my opinion, so I'm proud of that. We've done some adjustments. We've got some new management in down there, so you can see some improvements in that. This is pretty consistent across the entire residency, but ditching and pipes and culvert take a little bit longer to replace just because there's environmental regulations that we go with, and then there's also dumping that we have to do. It's just a little bit more arduous of a task, and it takes a little bit longer to get through those. Next up is the projects that we have planned and completed. So Rixey Road was completed last fall, so that was hard surfaced. We have a contractor that's going to be coming into Caroline Village beginning in the spring time frame, and they'll be hard surfacing Caroline Village over the summer. 207 over the Mackinac is scheduled to be closed for a full replacement. We'll have traffic on one side of the bridge, and we'll be replacing that in phase. I know you're not a fan, Mr. Black, but that is a project that we have to replace the bridge. So that'll take us from May of 2020 until July of 2021 for both sides of the bridge to be replaced. So we will have 2 new operable bridges at the end of that, and we ask that everyone pardon our dust. We'll be putting up message boards, putting that out through press releases, and we'll be making sure that the public's made aware of that. There'll be signage, detour plans, all coming probably 2 weeks before that May of 2020 timeframe. So next, in response to a comment, we got a board resolution regarding the Charlesburg Smart Scale project. So the design was modified to include a concrete median. Those are typically 10 feet long, but we extended that to be a 25-foot median that'll be on there. So there'll be a concrete island in the middle, which will have the signage on there. You know, if you have any questions about that, Mr. Black.
No, I actually, I think you knew when the project changed a little bit. That was kind of a surprise to us because it was originally signed, but I think we can live with this now that the concrete barrier is there. I really appreciate you guys putting that in because I think that will help with the situation we've had in the past. So thank you.
All right, so next, and I know that it's later on your agenda, but for VDOT to be able to adequately scope
cost estimate and do sketches for Smart Scale. We are requiring that each county provide us a full list of what they plan to move forward with Smart Scale by Friday. So that's February 14th. We're requiring that each county get those to us. We have over 50 projects that need to be cost estimated, designed, and put together with sketches before the pre-application opens on March 1st. So that period is between March 1st and April 1st. Every county has the opportunity to apply for Smart Scale. But again, we're just asking that we can get that information by Friday. You can send it to myself or to the Fredericksburg District, Marcy Parker, whichever's more convenient for you. But we just want to make sure that we remind everybody that that deadline is looming. So some traffic items in Caroline County. We've installed some speed limit signs. Some of those were in response to traffic studies that we have requests for. So that was 2 45-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on Lady Smith Road, and then a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, and then a 45-mile-per-hour truck speed limit on Sparta Road. We also have extensive sidewalk spot repairs in the town of Bowling Green. Our incidental concrete contract had expired, and we had a difficult time putting that out. We're putting that out again for competitive bid, trying to seek applicants to put in on that request for proposal. So that is out to the general public. We're looking for people to bid, and we hope that once we get a contractor on board, we can start doing some of those repairs in the late spring and early summer. Just some good news stories. This State Route 646 Forks Bridge was completed earlier this month, and we included some pictures on Star to the general public, but we always get kind of excited when we complete the construction. So that was originally built in 1961, and we did a full replacement in 14 weeks. In response to Supervisor Long, we added some additional striping on King Street and Port Royal, so that was replacing some of the pavement markings that were lost during surface treatment, so those were reapplied by state forces earlier this month. We also gotten a request from the board to provide updates on the Adopt a Highway. So we have 33 groups that are actively signed up. Last year we had 8 groups report pickups. We had 23 reported pickups. And unfortunately we have 30 groups that have not picked up in a 5-year period. So we're going to be removing them. We'll be sending out letters letting them know that their Adopt a Highway program fulfillment has not been met, and we'll be terminating those. But if we have any members from the general public, any community groups, church groups, anybody that wants to participate in Adopt a Highway, we have a large amount of information online. We're happy to have more people who want to participate in that. And then we have a memorandum of understanding with the county to help support that. We've given out a lot of trash bags to county staff to help pick that up. So I think with our efforts combined, that's going to be a big positive. But we are just asking the public if that's something they feel passionately about. We always appreciate volunteerism. That concludes the formal presentation I have, but I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
We want to start. Mr. Forehand, anything?
No, just the one project, and I'll probably work with Mr. Kelly, just want to put it on the radar regarding the sidewalk down Route 1. Lady Smith. So,
Yeah, we did talk about that.
I know it was last meeting, but I just want to.
Do we have time to actually put that project together? Because
It may not be for this cycle, but I do want to. A lot of folks walk that road, and just want to put it on our radar to at least scope the future.
Okay. Mr. Bly?
Yeah, I can't reiterate enough the whole putting the median in out there in Charlesburg. I think that would be a big help. I mean, I really do. I was really concerned when you guys changed the original, because the original design was kind of gentle to curve, and then we came up with this design that kind of shocked us a little bit, and that we weren't really, didn't really know about the changed design. But this, I think with that median, I think that's a good compromise, and I think that will help. I'm still a fan, I'll be honest with you, of if you guys can maintain those what do you call them, the warning, the stripes in the road, I guess. So warning signs, basically the warning strips that you have, rumble strips, thank you. If you could keep those up, they're kind of worn down, we haven't had much snow this winter, but as the construction happens, I still would like for a while for those to be up, simply because it's going to be a new traffic pattern. I don't think that would be a huge cost to lead up. So if you could continue to do that. Also, I had asked in front of Lake Landor, you guys are in the middle of doing a traffic light study, I believe, in front of the, and where is that? I think we requested that sometime in November.
Yeah, so I have that from the board from last year. So since Lake Leonard is private roads and that's a private community,
It was up in front of the lake, it was on 639.
correct, but that portion is still technically not state maintained. That's a private entrance.
Okay.
So I have that from our district traffic engineer when they reviewed this. So if VDOT would not install that, but if they did their own traffic study, which I believe we provided this to county staff back in September of last year, I just pulled the email up today, that we would be willing to review their study once it was submitted to us, since we wouldn't be doing this, since it would be treated the same way that we treat any private establishment. They would be responsible, if it was coming up a private road, to do their own traffic board analysis through their own engineers, and they would submit it to the department for review as a permit. Once it was completely built and maintained, we would maintain it long-term, but it would be on the responsibility of the community to install that.
So, I mean, just out of curiosity, so when you have like a major church or something, there's a traffic light in front of the church is the one with the traffic light and not be
It
done?
would depend on how that state, if it was a state-maintained road, then we would put that in, because it's state-maintained.
Laceman Road is a state maintained road.
Right, but Lake Leandor is private road. And so the road that's coming into the state-maintained road and all the traffic generated from that is from a private entrance.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Long?
Yes, hi. I did not see in your list of projects the road treatments for Portabago. Are they still on there? They weren't in the list that you sent.
So Portabago Bay is tentatively scheduled for next year for treatment, so that's on our FY22 tentative. But we have had significant changes. The Commonwealth Transportation Board has changed the way that we're getting funding, and so we're still waiting for how that would impact us locally. Basically, the Commonwealth Transportation Board is putting more money towards roadways that have higher volumes of traffic, so routes that have more than 3,500 vehicles on a daily traffic basis. So it's prioritizing higher volume traffic, and it's unfortunately going to have a harder impact on our lower volume secondaries, including subdivisions. We had looked at surface treating or cape sealing. I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's cape sealing.
Cape sealing. So we do have that tentatively scheduled. Cape sealing is less expensive than full asphalt, so we do have that tentatively on the schedule, but again, we are still waiting to hear back from the CTV and from VDOT Central Office to see what that looks like for our allocation moving forward. So our FY21 paving schedule is still in flux right now, while we wait to see how that's going to change based on what we had proposed initially.
Thank you. And then also, could you ask your wheels on the ground to please keep an eye on Page Road? There are a couple of timbering activities back there now, and I noticed last time I drove down there that some of the shoulders are breaking up and there's some potholes on curves and stuff. I'm sure those heavy trucks are wearing them down, so if they can keep an eye on Page Road for us, please, I'd appreciate it. That's all I have.
Mr. Everett?
Thank you. Hey, Mike, good afternoon. I just have a couple, on Route 30, we talked about the speed limit going up Route 30 past the state fair. I think that speed limit, I still think it's too fast for that residential area. We're going to have a major accident there sooner or later. The left turn onto Signboard Road, where it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane, I think we need to make a better indicator of what people should do there, and even make that just 2 lanes up and left turn only there.
Our district traffic engineer did review doing 2 lanes into Signboard and did not support that from the safety aspect based on the amount of pavement width we had. So when he reviewed this, I understand what you're asking. We did have the traffic engineer review that, and we just didn't have enough room in that location to be able to make it 2 lanes the full.
Are we talking about the speed there also?
I can pull the speed limit.
Speed is, yeah. Try to reduce the speed, that would also help. Second, falling trees. I understand that from the center of most roads, 25 feet up is state responsibility regarding falling trees, and I don't think we're doing a very good job there. Down Concord Road, down Signboard Road, Richard Glenn Road, through some parts of Dawn. We're not doing a good job of
ensuring those trees are cut back 25 feet off the road. There's some trees that are sticking out almost in the road. So I would ask that they would take a look at that. And then finally, standing water is still an issue on several roads. If we can do anything about that, I would appreciate it.
So I just want to reiterate, we are doing a lot of ditching. Caroline County is our highest number of work orders about water standing. It's very low lying. It's very difficult. I can understand that people have frustration. We've had a lot of rain recently. There isn't a lot of places for it to go. We do have crews out constantly pulling ditches, boom axing, trying to get trees out of the road. But again, we have 4,700 lane miles of road and less than 100 people to maintain them, so we are doing our best.
Right, and I appreciate that, man. I really do. I appreciate you taking my calls when I do call. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Keenan, it's always great to see you, and I'm going to start off by saying thank you. Okay?
Should I buckle in?
Yeah. No, it's really not like that. But the speed limit signs that you just mentioned were at the request of a constituent of mine, which just goes to prove how things do work when they work. The constituent called me, I said, the county doesn't do roads, it's all VDOT. I asked you, and we got signs on Lake Smith Road and on Sparta Road. So we do appreciate it. That's how the process works. Thank you very much. And now I need to ask you about Golensville Road.
Yes.
And that's a road that I believe is crumbling, and I've had several constituents ask me about that, and I see people behind me shaking their heads saying, yes, it is crumbling. Can you tell me if we are doing any better with the schedule to repair?
So I am happy to report Golensville Road. We have a number of segments. We couldn't do the whole thing in its entirety. We've broken up the worst segments, and we do have that proposed for our FY21 resurfacing schedule. So that would be with hot mix asphalt. So that's will be laid down a 2-inch lift and rolled down.
Real road.
Well, I would take that personally. We think they're all real roads, but
Real
transportation business.
Real road, okay. Things that more than a stagecoach could go over, so okay, just kidding. But a road that we would consider totally resurfaced, brand new road.
It would be milled down and resurfaced with hot mix asphalt.
And fiscal 21 starts July 1st.
Correct, but that is being bid in fiscal year 21, so we're most likely we'll be doing spot patches to repair, and then that work would most likely be happening the following summer. So the contract is being met within fiscal year 21, but this is a statewide.
Can't you just bring me up and then slam me down on the ground?
It really brings me great joy, sir, so.
Oh, okay. But if you can send me that schedule, I would be happy to pass that out to all the people.
Well, I want to be really clear, this is a tentative schedule while we still wait for confirmation from the Commonwealth Transportation Board and VDOT Central Office as far as what our allocations will look like next year. I am tentatively hopeful that based on the volume of traffic within Fredericksburg residency, we have the highest volume of traffic with the most number of routes over 3,500, so that should be a benefit in our section of the district, so we should be seeing more, but typically we get $3.3 million each year for asphalt, and hot mix asphalt, like we're talking about, is $400,000 a lane mile. So it doesn't go nearly as far as everyone would expect or want it to go. That's why we're doing Cape Seal on some of our lower volume roads, even though some people don't think that's real.
I know what they mean.
But that's roughly about $100,000 a lane mile.
You did promise me my lifetime, so, okay.
Was that on the record?
It can be.
All right.
All right, I just got a couple more real quick ones. Panola Road, we talked about before. I had somebody ask about striping on Panola Road, and you said it didn't meet the width requirement for striping. But I just rode through there the other day, and I don't know if it necessarily meets the width requirement for 2 cars. So, is there anything we can do in particular? I was coming from 301 on Panola Road, going towards the railroad tracks, and I met 2 cars, and I didn't know if we were going to pass safely. And the ditching is really good there, too. So...
I'll take that to heart and hope it's not sarcastic.
No.
I
will let you know when I'm
can
sarcastic.
I can have traffic engineering look at the width and what could be done long-term.
Okay, and I think that's going to be really serious because it is kind of close. And the last one is Edwards Road. Strap on. We closed, well, you closed Edwards Road, not you personally. Could we please have a sign before what is now, what says James Madison, I think, which will soon be Mary Adams Road? Could we have a sign there that says road closed so people don't think they can keep going?
Sure.
And could we also, please, I was very nice, could we have a sign that points to how to get to 301 South? Which would be taking that road that's Mary Adams and going through that development, which they already know that's the way we're going to go anyhow. Can you do that?
I'll look into
Now,
that.
can means do you have the ability to do that? So it's not may. Can you do that?
I personally cannot, but I can find people who could do that.
I was only good at math, not English. So thank you very much for your help. It's been a pleasure as always.
Good evening.
I'm apparently getting more cheeky as we get further.
Well, that's, it just gets tougher to get, oh, no. Because I want to follow up on the sign comment of the road closed. We have a mysterious sign in Caroline County that moves. It was 1.5 miles outside of Caroline County in Essex that got moved all the way into Caroline. And then during hunting season, it moved all the way back. And apparently a sign crew did that because I had 2 constituents stop and talk to those individuals. Can we find out how that sign got a work order to move again? Because what I don't want is to get to October and the sign move again and we don't know why. Because I know that you and staff have talked, but I'd really like resolution on how it got from the old location, from the new location back to the old location, because it is a mystery.
So, yes, and I was equally mystified by this. That is right between 2 residencies, so Essex County is in our Saluda residency, and they have their own sign crew who kept moving it, and our sign crew kept moving it back, and we finally had a very serious conversation about, this is the line, do not touch the sign.
Because it is also a problem with snow removal, because they stop 1.5 miles before, and then the crew doesn't, that's no man's land. So I had 8 or 10 constituents when it snowed, that they didn't plow because they were in Essex, no, they were in Caroline, and both residencies pointing to each other. So I'd really like to make sure that we have the sign issue resolved.
I have also notified the superintendent on both sides of that county line to make sure that they personally have monitors review that road, to make sure that it is plowed should it have snow.
Okay. The next one came to me from a constituent. When you, on the south side of Bowling Green, when you go out to the bypass, there are a number of people that, it is so dark there at night that people don't always stop where they're supposed to. Can we get a street light put in at that intersection to make it clear where to stop? Because if you're not familiar, you may not even know and just come straight out through. And there have been a number of people that have said to me, they can't believe that it's so dark and there's nothing there. Is that something we can look at?
We can look at, I'm sorry, I'm not really an expert in street lighting, but I can find someone who can give me that answer and report back to you.
And I'd like to meet them there at like 10 o'clock at night with no moon and cloud cover. Because that way they'll really understand what I'm talking about. Because that whole curve through on 301 around the bypass around Bowling Green, I live almost on it. And it's not unusual for me to hear somebody squealing tires in either hitting something or a guardrail. So I know that it's one of those, and it's typically further down on the south end of town where they're coming on. So I'd really like to see if we can't look at that. We talked at one of our meetings about a Route 2 study from Bowling Green to the county, Spotsylvania, Caroline County line. Mrs. Long and Mr. Thomas and I have all talked about what would it take to get a study? Because Farmer Drive on the VDOT side has actually 2 entrances onto Route 2. And depending on which one you're in, if you're going to town or to Spotsylvania, and somebody tries to come in either one of those, there isn't any way to do that. Is there any way we can get that road perpendicular to Route 2? VDOT owns that island between the Y. So it's been like that, I know, for a long time. When the store was there, that's why it's been like that since they rebuilt Route 2 in the 40s. What do we need to do to A, get a study done, and B, get that straightened out?
So we can look at possibly doing a STARS study for Route 2, and I would have a member of our planning staff, the district planning staff oversees those studies. So we can reach back out and explain how to apply for those studies and how to go about getting that. And then we could look at potentially secondary 6-year plan or other secondary improvement for projects as far as straightening out the intersection.
Okay, because we all have issues with Route 2. Mr. Thomas, who drives it a lot, Mrs. Long, her district is on the lower part of it, and my district's on the upper part. So if there were a way to get a study done, I think it would help. And also the facilitating of Farmer Drive on the VDOT side, not that the Farmer Drive on the other side isn't equally as bad, it's just got a lot less options, and that may also need to be looked at. And I think
More passing lanes.
those are, yeah, well, we have to have more straight road,
More passing lanes?
Route 2, more passing lanes.
Get more passing lanes on Route 2.
We would need to look at that and make sure that the geometry would support more passing lanes.
What about after safety stuff?
We prefer for people to pass when it's safe, so we would need to do that in straight place.
Yeah, we don't need any more EMS calls on Route 2. We've had our fair share, even where there are 3 lanes at the top of some of the roads where people think that people aren't coming as fast as they really are and pull out and they don't make it. So,
On Route 2, could I?
Mrs. Long?
Lynn, would you recommend, I see the STARS study for Farmers Drive, that would be a little bit faster, but all of Route 2 needs a safety and engineering study. We're having too many accidents, we're getting a lot of pressure from Spotsylvania with all the building going on up there. Would you recommend we consider that as a smart scale? Or are studies not really that?
Smart scale's not really the place for studies. STARS would be kind of simpler solutions that aren't necessarily as large scale as smart scale.
Small,
So
so we've got miles of Route 2, we've got corporate stores, Stonewall Jackson, farmers.
So just to be clear, I'm recommending you all look into potentially a STAR study for all of Route 2, whereas for the 2 entrances from Farmer Drive, I don't think that would require a STAR study. That would be minor engineering to look into that, but we would need to address funding for that long term. It is more difficult than just slapping down some asphalt. We would need to remove things, change the way drainage goes. So that's a larger project and would need to have engineering work as well as potentially right-of-way that needed to happen.
Okay, but STARS would study the whole road. Thank you.
Thank you for this evening, and thanks for, and you should have a great budget. There was no snow removal. We're crossing our fingers that there
We
isn't
are
any.
already looking at ways that we can spend the extra money that we have.
Mr. Kelly has
potentially.
just informed me that I've now jinxed us.
I have also jinxed us, but I was requested to do a wish list with the money that we have left, and I think I'm at $6 million right now. I don't think we're getting that, but we have really gone to town if we do get more money from the state.
But it's got to be used in the county that it was supposed to be used in. So don't give our snow money
Well, your
responsibility.
snow money is shared among the residents.
We like that, but we want it used here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this evening. Next on the agenda is the presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget for Caroline County Public Schools. Dr. Calvera.
Good evening, Chair Seeley, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the board, and Mr. Cully. I am pleased to be with you this evening to present the school board's approved proposed FY21 school budget. I am Dr. Ron Spells, Chairman of the school board, and I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge all other school board members who are present this evening. If you would, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. There are 6 major objectives we hope to accomplish during our presentation tonight. Budget context, which will align our budget request with our strategic plan, Pathways 2022. Understanding the FY21 budget process, providing a deep dive into the school division's 12 most critical budget priorities, and defining the impact of state finances and budget drivers. We will close our time together this evening with a brief overview of the next steps and upcoming meetings. Building FY21 budget context. Pathways 2022 is Caroline County Public Schools' 5-year strategic plan. The 4 overarching goals of teaching and learning, school and community relationships, health and safety, and organizational effectiveness serve as a guide for all work that the division tackles. We work purposefully to align all school, department, and division efforts with Pathways 2022 to increase efficiencies, enhance achievement, and ensure we are strong stewards of human and fiscal resources. Extending beyond the 4 strategic goals, Caroline County Public Schools embraces the following values: safety, unity, collaboration, citizenship, exploration, engagement, and last but not least, diversity. We use these foundational values as our guide to communication, decision-making, and action. Tonight, you will observe the purposeful alignment of our budget priorities to these pathways, beliefs, and goals. We stand before you with great confidence that our FY21 budget outlines a roadmap for our continued success and achievement of the CCPS vision and mission. To demonstrate our school division's commitment to productivity, opportunity, and achievement, the following 4 slides reflect successful strategies aligned to Pathways 2022 and the intentional allocation of fiscal and human resources. Please note that many of the 1920 teaching and learning accomplishments are represented on the slide before you. 100% of schools in Caroline County are accredited. The highest recorded on-time graduation rate at 93%, as well as record-breaking scholarship monies earned by the class of 2019. That total was over $7 million. While not an exhaustive representation of all CCPS partnerships, each of these businesses on this slide, the civic organizations and nonprofits, support our schools and community. From mentorship to apprenticeships, to interview skills and job opportunities, to the Y Swim program and the AP Hill field trips, CCPS is blessed with a growing network of folks who are willing to collaborate. Health and safety. Health and safety incorporates mental health and wellness, safety and facilities management, spanning numerous mental health partnerships to our social emotional curriculum, to energy and facility upgrades, also including our critical teamwork with the Sheriff's Department. CCPS is committed to each student and staff member's well-being. And finally, goal 4, organizational effectiveness. Organizational effectiveness incorporates strategic planning financial management, and human resources. The rollout of a Kita Box, an asset management system, diversified recruitment strategies, and our county partnerships enable CCPS to continue enhancing our organizational effectiveness and efficiency. I would be remiss if I did not bring to the attention of the board that Caroline County School Board was recognized by the Virginia School Board Association as its only board of distinction. Next, we will talk about CCPS FY21 budget process. As demonstrated before you, our annual budget process is deliberate, it is inclusive, and it is comprehensive. From our boots-on-the-ground facility walks to diverse stakeholder committees, to lobbying and legislation, to collaboration with local government officials, CCPS is committed to developing and delivering a budget reflective of our most critical and mandatory needs. Finally, the process is only enhanced by the school division's purposeful education, awareness, and advocacy efforts. Since October, CCPS has employed a wide array of budget-related activities that support our school community in being engaged and knowledgeable. You will see on the chart the 5 points highlighted: joint board meetings, advisory committees, building and department meetings, budget newsletters and social media, and lobbying. Now that you have a better understanding of how Pathways 2022 drives our achievement and budget process, our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sarah Calvert, will come forward to outline our FY21 budget priorities. Dr. Calvert.
Good evening. I will provide an overview of the 12 budget priorities identified as mandatory or critical need by CCPS advisory committees. Specifically, I will spotlight FY21 compensation, health insurance, VRS, the school council mandate, and various human resources that support continued advancement of our strategic plan goals. Budget Priority 1. Teacher compensation continues to be a national, state, and local priority. While the dollar amount associated with the proposed 5% increase equates to approximately $1.5 million, it is critical to understand the data behind this request. Specifically, it is important to remember trends associated with CCPS employment demographics, the 3-year implementation of salary study recommendations, regional compensation trends, and resulting implications. Prior to delving further into CCPS compensation data, it is important to share employee demographics and related salary study financials. As the largest employer in the county, CCPS employs 700 contracted people. For the purpose of context only, the county staff equates to approximately 281 employees. We provide this lens to help ground people's understanding of the sizable financials needed to complete the 3-year implementation of the CCPS salary study, which achieves FY18 minimum market value in 2021. More specifically, the objective of the study was to bring CCPS employee groups falling below the minimum market value to FY18 minimum market value plus fringes, which is not inclusive of health insurance. As noted on the previous slide, the request to spread the study implementation over 3 years yields the following data. In year 1, FY19 implementation, the cost of the salary increase was $848,727, with $400,000 from local funds and $448,727 from state funding. This resulted in a 0 years of experience salary of $40,600. Year 2 implementation, which is our current FY20 year, cost $1,026,229, with $562,000 from local funds and $464,229 from the state. The 0 years of experience salary rose to its current level of $41,800. Now, as previously stated, the goal of the study was to achieve FY18 minimum market value. Year 3 implementation in FY21 would require a 5% salary increase to reach the FY minimum market value in 2021. The resulting 0 years of experience salary for 2021 would be $43,332. To be competitive across the state and region, CCPS pay scales must demonstrate to current and future educators that our community values public education. When beginning the salary study in 2018, Caroline fell in the bottom for regional salary comparisons. This slide, which includes 13 neighboring recruitment competitors, documents our continued inability to compete. CCPS falls 13th out of 14 divisions for the lowest 0 and 5-year teacher salaries when compared to Chesterfield, Culpeper, Essex, Fredericksburg, Hanover, Henrico, King George, King William, Louisa, Orange, Richmond, Spotsylvania, and Stafford. Only Essex County falls below our 0 years of experience salary by $483. To further demonstrate the need for continued annual commitment to pre-K-12 education in Caroline, this what-if cost of living analysis demonstrates the positive cumulative impact of anticipated and committed funding streams. If CCPS received funding aligned with the annual Social Security COLA increase beginning in 2008, the FY 2021 0 years of experience salary would be $44,835. This salary would be $1,513 higher than what is being proposed today with an FY 21 5% increase. And CCPS's salary would fall 7th out of the 14 regional comparisons versus our current ranking of 13 out of 14. In closing out this budget priority, it is critical to keep in mind the past, present, and future compensation implications. Specifically, the 3-year salary study implementation was hindered by the influx of state funding and school divisions' comparable salary increases, resulting in diminished scale impact. The CCPS 0 and 5 years of experience scales continue to fall 13 out of 14 in comparison divisions, making recruitment and retention a continued challenge. The FY21 5% compensation increase would support every employee group in reaching the FY18 minimum market value in FY 2021. And the final future implication, planning for, at minimum, a consistent annual investment in schools in the form of a COLA and STEP is a necessity. Health insurance. CCPS understands the importance of an attractive total compensation package when recruiting and retaining staff. Continued monitoring of our health insurance offerings informs our need to make plan changes and premium adjustments to ensure sustainability while maintaining quality and regional competitiveness. Additionally, an increased focus on division-wide wellness is supporting the documented decrease in high-cost claims. The first 3 quarters of renewal data have been reviewed and a projected increase of 8 to 10% is anticipated. While our annual insurance data reflects significant variability with the local choice in health insurance costs, our 5-year average of 9.72 aligns with the national trend for annual insurance increases. Final plan rates will not become available until March. However, the school division's goal will be to utilize increased state funding to eliminate or minimize the impact of any rate increase upon our employees. The third budget priority relates to the state-mandated VRS increase for professional and non-professional groups. As part of the reevaluation and the actuarial process, the discount rate for the VRS plan dropped from 7% to 6.5%, resulting in increased rates and Caroline's employer-only increase of $238,132. Work-based learning coordinator. The CCPS profile of a graduate outlines how all students will become 3E ready, enrolled, enlisted, and/or employed. Development of the 5 C's, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and citizenship, and providing relevant learning opportunities for career exploration, workplace readiness, and community engagement are critical to creating productive citizens. Undergirding the importance of the profile of a graduate is the VDOE's inclusion of a new data point for school accreditation. Beginning with the class of 2022, which are our current 10th graders, all Virginia high schools will be evaluated using the College and Career Readiness Index. This index is measured by a school division's ability to provide all students with work-based learning opportunities, CTE coursework, and advanced placement and dual enrollment courses. To better define how schools can adequately provide experiences aligned with the new College and Career Readiness Index, the VDOE created the Comprehensive Work-Based Learning Guide, which includes 11 experiences aimed at providing 6th through 12th graders with authentic workplace experiences such as job shadowing, service learning, mentorship, externship, school-based enterprise, internship, entrepreneurship, school experience, cooperative education, and apprenticeship. A work-based coordinator would serve as the liaison between schools, students, and local businesses and organizations to ensure our collective success. School counselor. Governor Northam has adopted the gold standard ratio of school counselors to students. This state mandate requires during fiscal year 21 that elementary averages run 1 to 375 students, middle 1 to 325, and high school 1 to 300. While in compliance at the middle and high, the new FY21 ratio requires an additional counselor be hired for elementary. It is important to note that 5 additional counselors will be needed in FY22 to achieve the 1 to 250 ratio at all 3 levels. Classroom FTEs. The FY21 budget includes a request for 4 classroom positions, specifically 2 elementary classroom teachers for Madison Elementary School. Projected enrollment at 4th grade is 28.6 students at 4th grade and 27 per class at 5th grade. CHS is in need of an additional English teacher to remain in compliance with the standard of quality for English, which is a secondary average of 1 to 24 students. Finally, CMS and CHS are lacking a chorus teacher certified in vocal music. Currently, chorus is taught by the band directors. To increase choral offerings, increase enrollment, and provide competitive opportunities for CCPS students, a chorus FTE is needed to service both CMS and CHS jointly. Instructional Technology Resource Teacher, ITRT. To be 3E ready upon graduation, our students must be digitally literate and equipped with the 5C power skills. Currently, CCPS employs 4 instructional resource teachers who integrate technology, oversee innovation in STEM labs, support the secondary one-to-one initiative, and co-plan with teachers to ensure computer science standards are being embedded in instruction. With only 4 ITRTs, Madison Elementary and Bowling Green Elementary are required to share an ITRT, resulting in diminished equity of access. Behavioral Specialist. CCPS is looking to add a 3rd behavioral specialist to our social and emotional learning team. One specialist is currently titled currently funded by Title I and supports students at Bowling Green and Madison, while the second specialist is funded out of special education monies and works solely with students with special needs. A third specialist is needed to support regular education students at Lewis and Clark, CMS, and CHS who are displaying Tier 2 and Tier 3 behaviors and require intervention. A behavior specialist develops individualized behavior plans, supports and implements positive behavioral interventions, conducts functional behavioral assessments, serves as a liaison between families, community, and schools, and coaches teachers on classroom behavioral strategies. Operations FTEs. To support Pathways 2022 Goal 4 Organizational Effectiveness, CCPS is requesting a .4 or 2-day-a-week procurement FTE. The level of expertise required to ensure regulatory compliance is needed on staff. As mentioned in the joint board workshop, a full-time job share with the county would enable both entities to benefit from this human resource. The number one finding in the superintendent's 90-day entry plan process was the need to rebrand, to tell our story, and to create a public relations campaign. Over 130 stakeholders were interviewed, and over 80% of participants identified public relations and rebranding as the most critical areas of division improvement. A communications and community relations specialist would handle all media relations, publications, social media, and crisis communication. He or she would foster and nurture business partners and serve as a community events coordinator for events such as Polar Bear Plunge, Bowling Green Parade, Senior Citizen Gala, and the Bowling Green Wine Festival, etc. The final budget request reflects our belief in differentiation of resources based on need. While accredited, CMS must address some state and federal conditions relating to reading progress. The introduction of a reading coach would enable CMS to experience increased professional development and support with planning, program implementation, and student interventions. At this time, Chief Operations Officer Marcia Stevens will highlight state and local finances.
Good evening. I will be going over FY21 proposed budget for the budget financials. The average daily membership with the majority of the state funding is provided to the schools based on this funding formula. ADM is membership of a student from the first day of school until March 31st of each year. Based on a 5-year historical trend, CCPS is projecting an ADM of 4044 for FY21 budget calculations. CPS monitors the ADM on a monthly basis and will update projections once the March 31st ADM for the current year is reported in April. The local composite index determines a locality's ability to pay educational costs. LCI is calculated using a locality's true value of real property, adjusted gross income, and taxable retail sales. Increases in each of these categories has resulted in Caroline County's FY21-22 LCI rising 3.1%. It is important to note, as Caroline's ability to pay increases, the state funding to schools decrease. The FY21 proposed operational fund budget totals $47,047,460, or 6.8% increase over the prior year. Instruction is increasing $2.55 million, or 7.9%. The increase in the operational budget includes the 5% salary adjustment, estimated health insurance increase, VRS and G-Life, group life rates, and the additional positions presented earlier. Based on the governor's proposed budget, their state revenues are increasing $1.32 million. Adjustments have been made to decrease federal revenues to align with the projected carryover in the grant awards. Additional local transfers for bus lease and bus purchases are aligned to the projected revenues for FY21. With no local operational increase included, the FY21 proposed operational budget has a revenue gap of $1.68 million, or 3.8%. Crossover happens this week, and CCPS will continue to monitor the state funding during the rest of the General Assembly session and update accordingly. Of the $1.3 million in additional state funding proposed by the governor, $886,000 relate to mandated expenditures increased in CCPS's budget. Some of these mandated increases in expenditures include funding specifically for VRS and group life, $247,000 increase for Virginia preschool program, which also requires an increase on the locality of $142,000. $297,290 for special educational regional program, which those children will no longer be funded in ADM, and therefore the change in our projections for ADM, and the one school counselor based on reduced ratio requirements. The special grant fund, textbook fund, and food services funds have been adjusted based on the estimated projected revenues. The total reduction is in these separate funds is $315,000. This chart includes all expenses by category for all funds. The instructional category is 71.57% of the entire budget, with transportation the next largest expense at 8.38% of the budget. Administration, attendance, and health is the lowest at 3.84% of the budget, and this category includes the administration offices such as human resources and finance, in addition to school nurses and 2 psychologists. This chart includes all revenues by source for all funds. The state revenue is 55.11% of the entire budget, and the county transfer for operations, leases, and bus purchases is 30.1% of the budget. Other revenue is the lowest revenue source at 1.59% of the entire budget. I will now turn back to Dr. Calveric to finish this up with next steps.
As budget season progresses, CCPS will continue to monitor legislative activity, keep our school community abreast of budgetary developments, and participate in CIP public hearings on February 27th, the county administrator's budget presentation on March 10th, the county public hearing, which captures both school operations and CIP, on March 24th, and the county's budget adoption on April 14th. The following glossary has been included to define acronyms used throughout the presentation. We hope that you find this of assistance. We thank you for your time and look forward to working collaboratively to meet the needs of Caroline County Public Schools. Thank you.
David, can you save that presentation digitally so that we don't have to scan it while you've got it on that computer?
We'll go ahead and provide one to you. Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, he's got it there, so it'd be easy to say.
We would prefer to provide a second copy that does have all of our notes associated with it as well. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, comments? Mr. Forehand, Mr. Black, Mrs. Long, Mr. Underwood? No. Mr. Thomas? Thank you, Dr. Calveric. I
only had one. That was the Virginia preschool.
Yes, sir.
Is that, we're required to have preschool?
Well, we are required to actually host multiple venues for pre-K education. We obviously have a provider with Rural Family Development that brings in Head Start. We have Title I pre-K, and we also have the Virginia Preschool Initiative. I don't know that there is actually language associated with the word requirement, but it absolutely is a fundamental process associated with preparing our students for K readiness.
No other questions?
Just to expand upon that, Mrs. Stevens just shared that the actual template that comes from the Department of Education allocates those VPI funds and the pre-K funds. So being that it is already included within that funding template would indicate that it is a necessity.
Thank you, Dr. Calvert.
Thank you.
No, we won't do public. I was gonna actually remove the broadband advisory committee because Mr. Thomas and I still haven't resolved that.
Mr. Seeley?
Yes, sir.
I'd ask you a question on that. The governor, I was at the Bayfield conference, the governor and the national government are starting to release chunks of money, not probably enough for broadband. And the localities that hop on this the fastest are the ones that are going to get the money. And so I'm concerned, we've been doing this.
And I'll answer that for you because I've been concerned about this. And we need a provider. And because we were not given the funds for the Panola, we were not one of the score winners for the Panola Road project that we actually applied for through the VATI grants. We need a provider that, and I've been talking with Atlantic Broadband, but they are a little stung because they were initially told that those projects, we were with 6 other counties, scored and actually won the amount of money that we asked for. Then that whole process was rescored and it was delivered a month later and we were no longer the winners. So one of the concerns, and I'm talking to Atlantic Broadband trying to figure out where they will work with us at because we need a provider. And they are still evaluating whether or not they are willing to do that because they had a lot of money in the proposal that ended up not being scored as a winner. So we need a provider that will work with us because that's what it's going to take. I understand your point about the funds. I have talked with Senator McDougal. I have talked with Delegate Branson, Delegate Fowler, and Delegate Warwick all about the funds and how they think those scoring processes are going to take place. And I'm talking to Atlantic Broadband to see if they will actually facilitate helping us in that process. I understand your question. I'm working at that from a lot of different angles to see how we actually get into how we actually score a win and where we would go.
Right. And I understand, at the VACO conference, they talked about localities that were frozen out from the previous time, and they seem like they're ready to go. And they said the most prepared is going to get the grants. And I'd like to see the committee that we were talking about up and running, that's all.
We have several projects ready to go with Atlantic Broadband, locally, Panola Road, and an industrial park. Whether or not they're willing to actually go forward is our real problem.
That's all. The other thing, Mr. Black, and I without a doubt agree with rapid response, and you reminded me of the plan we had before a long time ago to work with the schools, and I think I'll try to get with the school representative as soon as possible. That may be an outside-the-box way of thinking to get something done quickly. So, okay, and I don't have my appointment is not ready for BCA.
We could move to consent agenda. Anybody?
I just had a quick question on D.
On which letter?
D.
D as in dog. And Mrs. Long, do you still have one on D?
Yes, and consider the time, could we just table this, pull that next meeting?
And they got to get moving.
We'll take this and start on construction, doesn't have anything to do with it.
We're working on construction. We still have time to grade. Yeah, you can table that. We'll put it on the next.
So we're going to table E.
We've got the construction going, Mr. Black. Contractor's going. This would be.
This is the brick you're talking about.
It would just be the steps.
The bricks on the party.
He's got a
So
question.
if I have, Mr. Underwood.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think a motion is in order for consent agendas to be approved, A, B, C.
And Mr. Black is
removes agenda item E. Right.
Mr. Black, D.
I guess my question is, I'm looking at this, I mean, the tires, you made a recommendation that the 48-inch tires not be taken anymore. I guess my question is, where would someone take them?
Actually, 48-inch tires would be considered, we've just reduced 48 to 22. So anything, we would accept 48, it has to be cut in half. So typically, the only things you see 48 inches, tractor trailer tires are 22. You're talking about tractor tires that are huge.
If someone cuts it in half, we'll take them?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
I just had, on that point, if we're going to increase it, would there be a notice put up ahead of time that there's going to be an increase, or is it instant?
We would just make it instant. It's for commercial only, so this doesn't affect, the citizens still be able to put in their 4 tires and dispose of them without any cost. We have companies that provide services of selling tires. They bring tractor trailer loads of tires to us at a time that we then have to reload on our trucks and haul them down the road.
I understand that, but will they be notified ahead of time so they
Yes,
should?
or they just show up, yes, ma'am.
That's all, I want to make sure we're fair to them.
So do I have a motion for A, B, C, and D?
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion to include agenda D and removal of item E for the next meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We're going to go into recess until,
Let everybody know.
well, I will, we're going to come back to public comment at 8:10. It's about 14 minutes, because
Yes.
we are recessed till 8:10. I'm going to call to order the meeting back to order. We are now to public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes, and it's comments directed to the board. It will be a question and answer. And for those that may want to speak about the school budget, remember, we heard it for the first time tonight, and we will have a public hearing on the county budget, probably the first or second meeting in March, not sure, not the first, the second. We'll advertise it, it's potentially the second. Just so for everybody's own information, just so they know where we are. So with that, I'm going to open public comment.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. My name is Jasmine Blackwell. I am an English teacher and the head varsity softball coach at Caroline High School. I live in Madison District. I'm here to speak to you about adding an English and course teacher to the high school. This school year, we have been working with one less English teacher. Teachers are handling more preparations each semester and more students in every class period because of this. So for this English curriculum, this means that entirely different short stories, novels, poems, and plays have to be read, studied, and prepared for teachers for each different prep. When the English position was cut, it was more than just losing an employee, we lost opportunities. The first benefit of adding an English teacher to our high school team would be to decrease the student-teacher ratio. Our focus is on conferring with students about their work. Our goal is to meet with the students where they are and then take them to where we need them to be. However, with more than 24 students in the room, it is not guaranteed a teacher will have time to meet with all of his or her students in that time and manner. Our students must be prepared for their SOLs and gain hands-on skills to be ready for employment, enlistment, or enrollment come time for graduation. Malcolm X expressed that education is a passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who are prepared for it today. Smaller class sizes allows teachers at all grade levels to instruct and assess more effectively, to have a better grip on students' preparation for the next phases in their lives. Once we lost an English teacher, student-driven electives that we once had offered were taken away. Mrs. Blue's online newspaper class offered opportunities that regular English classes lacked. 2 years ago, a student was accepted to study journalism in France because of his experience he had gained from the class. Other possible electives that could be offered are composition theory, teaching for tomorrow, and public speaking. All these classes could offer scholarships to students and grow teacher stability. Adding back an English teacher will help us collectively work smarter and not just harder. Another position and class that is lacking in Caroline County is chorus. There are many talents in our neighborhood, but yet not many outlets to let it flow through. Singing releases endorphins just like playing an instrument or sport. Surrounding schools offer chorus and show choir, and we need to offer equitable or additional options for the students in Caroline, especially when there's only one high school. Our school counselors have expressed a growth in theater arts. 130 students have signed up for Theater Arts Part 1 for 2020-2021 school year. Students are looking for chances to sing and dance, not only act. If we are aligning our focus on a profile of a graduate adopted by CCPS, we need to meet the students, okay, and we also need to make them well-rounded in education that is required. Limiting our courses puts education in the box.
Ms. Blackwell, can you wrap it up because we're beyond 3 minutes?
Yes. Here's the most dangerous thought. We've always done it this way. We need the instructions and class offerings to meet the 21st century demands. We need to adapt to the world and what the needs are for the students to prepare for them today so they're ready tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Elizabeth Mitchell, and I work in this county, I live in this county, and I've seen amazing things happen in this county, and I ask you to continue to invest, and I ask you even more to fund these teachers. I work with 5th grade, but I get to experience Madison, and I see some of the most caring moments. I see classrooms that are too full, so I do support the bring us more teachers. I ask that you leave a legacy. Go above and beyond. I agree with safety, but it does begin by having the people there for our littlest, the ones that aren't here, and their parents aren't here, probably because they're putting them to bed. But nobody speaks for them, and I continue to, and I want to see our schools funded, and the health care of our teachers covered, and you will continue to see me. Thank you.
What district are you from?
Reedy Church.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. My name is Teresa Hicks, and I'm from the Port Royal District. I'm also the principal at Madison Elementary. This group that with me includes my 4th and 5th grade teachers, and we're here as a united front to speak on the 2 line items in the school budget of an additional 4th and 5th grade teacher for Madison Elementary. I've been in Madison for the past 33 years. During my tenure here, I have seen many changes, both positive and negative, that impacted our teachers, students, and community. I wish I could say that all the changes I've seen in today's educational climate have all been positive, but I cannot. While we are a smaller school, 518 students, we're also a school with a big heart. We are working hard to educate our students in the content areas of reading, math, science, and history, but also developing communication skills, critical thinking, collaboration, creative thinking, and citizenship. In order to accomplish these goals, we need quality teachers and class sizes that support learning engagement for all students each and every day. We currently have 3 5th grade classes and 3 4th grade classes. Our current class size is 27 students in 4th and 25 students in 5th. When 3rd grade moves on to 4th in the coming school year, there will be 28 students per class in 4th grade. To provide rigorous lessons and increase levels of student engagement, research shows class size impacts overall student performance. The larger class size impacts the learning of all students. In addition, the older the student, the more space is needed within a classroom. And we invite you to tour our school with a focused lens on the physical space of our classrooms. All students in Caroline deserve a quality education and quality time with your teachers, and with large classroom numbers, this becomes challenging work. As the state requires that we further engage students in soft skills to better equip them for the workforce, we are advocating to meet that requirement by providing teacher environments that are conducive to active learning. An additional class at 4th and 5th will allow for this to occur. We appreciate your support of Caroline Schools in the past, and we look forward to your continued support for the future of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. My name is Jamie Pruitt. I am the reading coach at Madison and the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year for the county. I'm a resident of Hanover, but I drive the 32 miles each way every day to work for Caroline County Public Schools. I'm here to speak to you about perception. Lee Atwater once said perception is reality. It doesn't matter if the perception is actually true. A perception being untrue makes it no less a reality in the minds of those who think it. There are perceptions made about everything: people, organizations, governments, occupations, and school systems. As I said, I live in Hanover. I worked in Henrico for years before making the switch to Carolina. I'm here to tell you that there are absolutely perceptions made by both external and internal audiences about the school systems that surround the greater Richmond area. I'm not going to name counties or divisions, but I am going to tell you the perceptions teachers have of their neighboring school systems. Here's one. Pays well, but stick to elementary schools. You definitely do not want to teach in the lower high schools. Here's another. Decent system. Just make sure you get a job in the West End. The East End will keep you alive. Another. Don't even work there. And the last. Great system. Hard to get into because no one believes, but it's a great system. These are absolutely what teachers say to one another about potential employers. Now, I didn't put Caroline in there because I want to talk to you about the perception Caroline has around its school system. When I tell people that I work in Caroline, they simply say, poor Caroline. Poor Caroline. Not said with malice and not said with mocking, but said with pity. And guys, we've got to fix that. I'm from a rural community, raised in a middle-class, blue-collar family, and pity is about the most insulting thing that anyone can give me. When someone says, poor Caroline, I say no. I say you're wrong. I talk about the amazing 93% graduation rate, the collaborative work we do to engage all students, and how we are a small yet mighty and cohesive division who sustains and in some areas surpass the work of larger districts. I try to recruit. You should come to Caroline. I say, why? They say, it's far away and they don't pay as well. And then I know I've lost the battle. I need your help changing the perception of Caroline County Public Schools. I need ammunition that only you can give me. I need something with which I can counter. I need facts to change their perceptions. So when they say why, I can say because teachers are greatly valued and it shows in our compensation. I can say because of our smaller class sizes. I can say because Caroline County cares about the strong achievement of all students and it shows in their financial priorities. So when they ask me why, I can say that we have a board of supervisors who listens to us, who's willing to sit with us and work with us and invest in us. Only then can we all change their perception. Thank you.
Thank you. I gotta keep the clapping down. It's an orderly room, it's no clapping. Same goes for booing.
Good evening. My name is Carly Ogden, and I am a resident and I live in the Western Carolina District. I'm coming tonight as a parent and as a teacher in the county. I have children at both the elementary and secondary level, and I've been teaching here for the past 20 years. Just recently, I have taken on a new role, and I have become an ITRT, Instructional Technology Resource Teacher. I'm speaking to you tonight about the need for a fifth position. ITRTs are, as defined by the Virginia Department of Education, that they are intended to be teachers of teachers, providers of technology, professional development, and supporters of instruction. ITRTs train teachers to integrate technology and software effectively in the classroom. As ITRTs, we conduct trainings at the school and district level. We teach teachers and staff on countywide programs such as Power School and Performance Values. We help ensure that the computer science standards are being met by co-planning with classroom teachers and attending weekly PLC meetings with each grade level. We coach new and veteran teachers on how to use technology and enhance their lessons. We are also responsible for STEM labs at each school. We prepare lessons and activities that support science, technology, engineering, and math, along with help build communication and collaboration skills that students need to be successful. We work with classroom teachers to ensure that these lessons and activities correlate to the SOLs being taught in the classroom. It is also the job of the ITRT to maintain and supply the labs with materials. I tell you all these things not to say that it's too much and I can't do it, but to say that it's a lot. I am the ITRT that's split between Bowling Green and Madison. I'm spread between 2 buildings, 95 teachers, and 1,200 students. By adding a 5th position, those numbers would be cut in half, and that would help to ensure that our teachers and students, the future of Caroline, have the quality and instructional resources that they need to become 3D ready upon graduation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my name is Beth Hausler. I live in the Bowling Green District. I actually just moved to Caroline over the summer. I lived in Hanover for many years, but I've worked in the schools for a number of years. And I'm here also asking for that 5th ITRT position. I know I've talked to some of you before at events, but I'm going to echo what Carol said. You know, we've only increased the amount of technology that we've had. We have our digital initiative now in grades 6 through 12. We have the computer science standards, which we're implementing this year in K through 8. And we have our innovation labs at the elementary schools. So the idea of splitting an ITRT between those buildings is rather cumbersome. Now, I have a lot of experience talking about ITRTs. I was an ITRT. I was in the original group of ITRTs that the county hired, and I guess now I've been in a position for a couple of years, but I understand, you know, the idea of balance. I think I worked in 3 buildings at the same time, but we didn't have the one-to-one initiative. We didn't have the computer science standards. We did not have the innovation labs. So my time's almost up, but again, asking for that 5th ITRT position. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Tamara Feggins. I live in the Madison District in Caroline, and I teach at Caroline at Madison Elementary School. I've worked in Caroline school systems for 24 years in the county. I'm here to speak about a couple of things. The first thing is the need for the 4th and 5th grade teachers at Madison Elementary School. We are stretched very thin. It is very difficult to reach all of our students and give them what they need. That is my job as a teacher, to make sure that all of my students are ready to go to middle school. And it's difficult. It is very difficult. I spend a lot of time after school on my own time tutoring these kids, because they don't have the time. I don't have the time to reach them during the school day, and that is my free time, and I don't get compensated for that at all. We need those positions. We're stretched very thin, and next year it's going to be even worse with the 3rd graders coming up, because it's a larger class of students. I also want to speak to the ITRT position. I watch Carol as she tries to do her job between the 2 schools, and see all that she wants to do and all that needs to be done, and it is very difficult for her to get it all done. In order for her to be effective, in order to reach those new state mandates that we have, we need that other ITRT position so that we can have one in every school. Lewis and Clark has one, CMS has one, the high school has one. If we're going to talk about equity, we need to have one for every school in the county. Finally, I'm going to reiterate some of what Ms. Pruitt said. As a county resident, it is difficult for me to talk about working in the county school system and to talk to people about moving to Caroline. And you hear people and you talk to people and they say, oh, well, yeah, Caroline's a great place and I'd love to live there. The location is fantastic. The commute would be great. But the schools, they're not so good. We need to change that perception, guys. We need to fund the schools. We need to keep those good teachers that we have, and the way to do that is to let them know that we care about them and we value them. And in order to do that, we're going to have to put some more money towards it. I appreciate your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Good evening.
I'm Kevin White from the Bowling Green District. I'm glad to see on the amendments we added the AP Hill Hunt and Fishing article that came out last week, and a lot of the boys that use the hill to hunt and fish were shocked to learn that they suspended all hunting and fishing on the post. They're claiming it was something to do, and to be honest with you, their justification doesn't hold water, that it was a forest protection move when they fall under the same command as Quantico and Fort Belvoir, and neither of those posts have changed their posture at all. And there's been some claim that because of the forest protection, they had to pull a game warden to become one of the rent-a-cops and heighten security on the post, but yet their posture hasn't changed. I found the timing strange. It was right after hunting season. We got turkey season coming up, and a ton of folks fish over there. So I thought we needed to do a two-prong attack. I would come to you all tonight and talk to Rob Whitman this morning. He's going to work it, because it's federal law that land belongs to all of us. When they're not training, or there's not a high security or a terrorism threat, it's supposed to be open for the citizens' use. And all of the military posts I've been stationed at around the United States and even overseas, and I'm so old it was before terrorism, we never had a heightened posture where you couldn't get on post without being cavity searched. But I think time is of the essence. I agree that we need to do this resolution. Again, turkey season's about 3 weeks away, and fishing's coming right on. And I think we're getting sold a bill of goods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Nancy Carson, and most of you know me. I'm from the Madison District, and I am on the board and represent all of these people who came tonight to speak. And I just hope that you all have listened to all the different sides that they've presented, because we are all one Caroline. And I'm so proud of what they explained to you tonight. And it looks like we're asking for a lot because we need a lot. We employ so many people in this county, over 700 employees full-time. And we need your help. You want to bring in businesses. You say that it's because of the schools. Well, help us change that perception. We're doing everything we can with on-time graduation, having all these classes, getting our internships and scholarships. You need to help us and step up to the plate. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board chair, co-chair, and members of our board of supervisors. My name is Jessie Rollins, and I am from the Madison District. And I just want to speak to you for a quick minute and give you a census update. Census cards will be arriving soon to the homes in Caroline County. The census website will go live around March 12, 2020. Soon, yard sales and banners and even magnets will be posted throughout the county, letting citizens know that they count. Please share this information on your websites, social media pages, and any meetings you have planned in the community in the next coming months. By working together, citizens will know how important it is to participate in the 2020 census and the federal dollars it brings to Caroline County, and how those dollars will help with schools, roads, medical facilities, first responders, and hopefully our tax rates. Each person counted will bring approximately $2,000 to Caroline County per year, which is over $20,000 over a 10-year period. 50 people miss equals approximately $1 million of federal monies that will not come to Caroline County. Our population, our 2010 census population showed a little over 28,000, A few weeks ago, I attended the health assessment meeting, and it shows our population a little over 30. So for rounding purposes, we're going to say that that's a difference of about 2,000 people. If you put that in monetary terms, 2,000 people times $2,000 equal in the neighborhood of about $4 million. Multiply that over 10 years, and that's about $40 million that Caroline County is missing. We need everyone to understand the value of what it means to be counted in 2020 and how that helps us, especially as we get into this process of the budget every year. This is something that everyone can share on their social media pages. We have a lot of positive things and fun and exciting things that our kids are doing. And I'm not a real big Facebook surfer, but every once in a while I do get on outside of just communicating with family. And I would love to see more people share all the wonderful things that are happening with our students at Caroline County Public Schools. And you can simply do that by going to the Caroline County Facebook page and hitting share, because our schools are doing a good job of bragging on the success of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Joan Rollins Davis, and Floyd Thomas is my representative. Before I get into this, I would like to extend my support to Caroline County Public Schools. It is greatly needed, and I hope that the Board of Supervisors do what is necessary to help them. I will be speaking about the comment that was on Facebook. It goes as such: teaching is hard and even harder now with helicopter parenting and absent parents, and even harder when the federal or state government says you can't expel or move someone out of a classroom or school for doing horrible things in school because he may have some sort of disability or additional melatonin in his skin. And I do believe that the melatonin was supposed to be melanin, because melatonin helps you with sleep, whereas the melanin is what gives your skin the pigmentation. The problem that I have with it were the comments were insensitive and clearly out of pocket. I'm not even sure that the Board of Supervisors got it when it was such an uproar, because the comment was not removed, but the correct spelling was then put on that page. And so it came down melatonin and went up melanin, as my shirt says tonight. And my problem was that the comment was offensive. It wasn't even the spelling, it was that the comment was offensive, period. And that is the issue. When the social media fingers get the moving in private groups in this area, it is hard to even think that that is not the conversation that's being happening behind closed doors, or that is not a real reflection of how someone thinks. As a Board of Supervisor member and an elected official, we hold every single person up here to a higher standard. So the comments that you would make in your home cannot necessarily be made out in a public forum. It is very disheartening to the parents of children with disabilities, and I did take it offensive when it was addressed as melanin in the skin. And then it was corrected to the correct spelling. And then I just did not feel like that Board of Supervisor got that it was very offensive to people of color. I also noticed that 4 people on the Board of Supervisors mentioned that comment was not reflective of their ideas. One person stayed silent. That even disheartens me even more, because it makes you feel as a citizen that it may be a shallow apology or an apology that is put out. Me personally, I think that this person needs to resign. I think this person needs some time to sit back and think about what they say and how it affects the people in the community. And if you're going to do something, then vote yes when the school board asks you to do something, if you're so concerned about what's going on in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. If you're going to speak, come on down so that we can Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jordan Rollins-Williams. I'm from the Reedy Church District. I'm a Caroline High School student. I'm a junior this year. And I just wanted to reiterate the support for the school system. I love our school system and everything that it's allowed me to do. I'm currently a governor's school student, and next year when I graduate, I'll be getting my associate's degree before I actually graduate high school. And many of the teachers in this room actually have changed my life in ways that I wouldn't have even noticed until now. So I just ask that you support the school board and their budget, because it's not for nothing. Like, it is, they have reasons behind it, and all the students at Caroline would benefit greatly from it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Calvin Taylor. I represent the Port Royal District on the school board. I was not going to speak because I agree with everything that's been said. Let me just say thank you, because I sat where you sat, and I realize the difficulty in what you do. But there's one thing I know. There's not one person in here who does not want the best quality education for our children. I believe that from the Board of Supervisors, and I know that from the school board. And I felt like if I didn't say something, somebody might leave thinking that I didn't agree with what was said. I don't want to prolong the meetings, but I want you to know that I do appreciate what you do. I do support wholeheartedly the request from the school board, and I know that you're going to do the best that you can to honor that request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alvin James III. I'm actually a Spotsylvania resident. I've done a little bit of work here in Caroline, just a little, but I won't take credit for a lot of it. First thing I want to say, and I won't be before you long, is I actually read a quote that said, would you rather be at war with the world or at peace with yourself? Or would you rather be at war with yourself and at peace with the world? And pretty much that's, to me, I feel like a lot of us and a lot of leaders, we rather be at war with the world and at peace with ourselves, right? But it doesn't seem that way, because I feel like we don't take a lot of things as seriously as we should when it comes to the younger generation that comes after us, leading the way. I feel like as a representative, if I'm working for a company, my job is to, wherever I'm at, I'm representing that particular company, right? So anything that I say, anything that I do is a reflection of that company. And we're all a reflection of our community. So we're looking to, and I'm saying we, because I'm saying the community, we're all looking to do great things, and we want to help people, and we want better education, and I'm all for better education. But it seems to me that just by coming in and sitting in, and the things that I've been hearing, that we kind of get in the habit of just sweeping things under the rug without any action being done behind certain things. So I just want to say that I just hope that as a man of integrity, as a man of my word, I hope people do the same. I would hope that if you ever see me out and about, I would hold myself to a higher standard, as well as we hold you all to a higher standard. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Lionel Fortune, and I am a member of the Mackinac District. I did not plan to speak tonight, but my conscience brought me to the podium just to speak on the controversial Facebook statements that were made, that have already been talked about. I do appreciate the carefully crafted apology that was given. However, it felt that the blame regarding controversy lied with the individuals who read it as opposed to the individual who proffered those comments on Facebook. So I'm rising to speak about this teachable moment that the board has talked about in relation to this particular controversy. As a member of an elected body, the words that you say are powerful, and that in this particular situation, it feels like the public confidence or trust has been damaged. I understand that those comments were made in a public forum or in an official meeting of the Board of Supervisors, but nevertheless, it feels that the public trust has, for members of our community, has been damaged. I would encourage the board as a whole, if you're truly concerned about this being a teachable moment, to consider unbiased, unconscious bias, diversity, and inclusion training, if that's something that the board has not engaged in the past, as a way to show the community that the board as a whole is serious about healing some of the damage that may have been caused by this particular controversy. So with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Board of County Supervisors, Chairman, how you guys doing this evening?
All right.
It's been a long time since I've seen you guys. I pray all is well with you. Just wanted to share some statistics around the recent controversy.
Trey, what district are you in?
Well, I'm a sponsor president now.
You gotta say your name and
I'm sorry, Gary Taylor. I was probably former Madison District, I believe. I reside in Spotsylvania, but as you guys know, I do a lot of work in Caroline. We're in the community with the school systems, wherever it involves mental health. Briefly, just wanted to speak about some different statistics that's going on that in regards to the recent controversy that we had over this Facebook comment. Voices of Children for Virginia's Children has put out some data and statistics around the school to prison pipeline. I'm not sure if you are aware of that. And what it's showing, this was from 2015 to 2016, was saying that Virginia schools in 2015 to 2016 issued over 131,500 out-of-school suspensions to over 70,000 individual students. It looked at students with disabilities were suspended at rates of 2.6 times higher than that of non-disabled students. African American students were suspended at rates between 3.8 times higher than Hispanic and white students. Virginia schools at this point in time continue to suspend very young students at an astonishing rate, issuing over 17,300 short-term suspensions and at least 93 long-term suspensions just to children to pre-K through third grade. I wanted to get that data set out there because the facts of the matter, data is out there to show that there's a disproportionate rate of kids getting suspended from school who have disabilities or who have melanin in their skin. So I caution you guys to look more into this project, and if you have questions, to reach out to your actual Carolina leaders who are part of the NAACP or community leaders to learn more in depth as far as what's going on. And I also do stand in support of the budget for the school system. I'm a Carolina County graduate of high school in 2006. I stand with working with the school systems, and I urge in order to sustain a better county, our school systems need to be better as well so that we can have overall growth in this county. And I don't know if you do know, there's a lot of trauma that sets in this county. And that affects all of us, even if it's not in our front door. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would wish to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. We will move to agenda item number 4.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The purpose of this public hearing is to allow public comments on the proposed sale of real property owned by the county as required by Section 15.2, 1800B of the Code of Virginia. The property in question consists of approximately 1.97 acres and is located at 29415 Richmond Turnpike, which is Route 301. It is the site of the former Frog Level Volunteer Rescue Squad, and the county came in possession of the property following the disbanding of the former Frog Level Volunteer Rescue Squad and conveyance of the property to the Board of Supervisors. So this is a public hearing to allow public comment on the possible sale of that property.
Any questions, comments from the board before I open the public hearing? Hearing none. Public hearing is now open for the possible sale of the former Frog Level Rescue Squad property. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Board members, questions, comments? Mr. Thomas?
I was just going to say, I would be with the sale of the property. My preference would be to listen to the real estate agent. We know in the past that takes purchase of this property. It is on a native highway. It's not a little tiny piece of property, so I would think we would look at real estate. Yes, sir.
I was saying, if that's...
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Before you vote on that motion, I would recommend, I hear those comments, but I would want to check the state law about whether that's allowed, whether we need to do sealed bids. So if perhaps that you could make that as a comment, but not include it in your motion to allow it to be sold, however permitted under state law.
I would have been my motion to sell, although I will say, it does say preferred with the realtor in my book.
Yeah, and if that's allowed, that's fine, but I'd like to be able to confirm it, and if it's not, I want to make sure that we can still move forward with the sealed bid process.
I'll amend my second.
I have a amended motion and amended second. Any further discussion?
I had non-related discussion, but we didn't during our public comment. We didn't, and I know each board member feels the same way. We didn't offer our prayers to Mr. Barton, and we wanted to say that we are with you and we understand in your time of loss that the board cares about you. Thank you so much for being here. So that was unrelated and carry on with the motion, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Agenda item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the purpose of this public hearing is to consider an amendment to the county code to increase the flat fee charged by the county for reasonable expenses incurred by the sheriff's office or fire and rescue in responding to vehicle accidents that are caused by impaired driving, reckless driving, etc. To recover these expenses, the county can either charge a flat fee or a minute-by-minute accounting of the actual costs incurred. The Code of Virginia now allows an increase in the flat fee from $250 to $350. So that is one of the purposes of this proposed ordinance amendment. In addition, Sheriff Lippman has asked that the county incorporate a reference in the state code related to driving a commercial motor vehicle while intoxicated to include that into the county ordinance so that the fees can apply in such instances as well.
Comments or questions from the board before the public hearing?
I just said one, Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And I was reading this, it says $350 for a minute-by-minute accounting. Which one would it be?
You have the choice, is my understanding.
So he can decide, the judge decide it was $350 or minute-by-minute?
That's my understanding, yes.
So there's no like, whichever one's lower or whichever one's higher provision?
I think that is up to the department or sheriff's office to decide which.
Whereas it was depending on how you wanted it, did you want to do accounting for minute by minute? Because you've got to be able to prove cost if you do minute by minute.
Right.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm just trying to say for consistency, if I have one accident, I'm charging minute by minute, and the other one I charge $350, does that put us on the hook for anything? As far as, going in a different direction for one person as opposed to another?
This is the board's decision, not the sheriff's decision.
Really already got it down to balance code.
Yeah, that's minimum.
I mean, we're amending the county code, so it's our decision. If you want to make it whichever one's higher.
You're talking about a DUI accident.
Yeah.
So they got a towing bill out of that. That's probably at least at with a $10,000 fine.
No, and I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, just for consistency purposes, that's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, that was more of a slight from our
Yes.
recent comments from our citizens. I understand. They're getting taken on the chin.
I don't know whether the chief is involved in it. The fire rescue can recover some of this stuff too, if they're working something on a DUI accident. But you all just charge a flat rate. You have an answer to that, chief, while you're moving about?
Just want clarification. No,
Right now, the only thing we use cost recovery for on the fire side is hazmat, and it's a direct cost of what we outlay. Although DWI potentially could have a cost for us, generally, we don't have it's basically an accident, there's extrication, so if we would look at the time, probably for us would be the biggest way to build that, the easiest way to build it to that person. So the sheriff's office, I would imagine, has a greater amount of cost in that for the accident, the reconstruction, and all the things that occur after the fact versus us getting the patient out, getting to the hospital.
Does the sheriff do that, or the state police do reconstructions? State police? So it's really
It kind of depends. On the interstate, it's the state police, without a doubt.
Mrs. Morrison?
Could we add whichever is highest?
We can always add that, sure. Whichever is higher, or whichever you can prove a cost, you gotta prove a cost.
I thought the only language we were changing in this was 250 to 350.
It is.
That's the only language we're changing in what we already have. So we have 250 or minute by minute in the language now. So we're changing that to 350. So
Or minute by minute.
no, we have 250 or minute by minute now. So we're only amending the word 3 to 3.
That's what was advertised, okay.
That's only wording in the whole ordinance is changing. It's 250 to 350.
So it'll
It's
say
minute by minute.
now.
It's 250 minute by minute now.
And if you approve this, it would say
350 minute by minute.
Right.
I can give you a little bit more background on the statute reference in there that authorizes this. It's one of those discretionary statutes that says the county adopts an ordinance and can do these things. So what you have is the ordinance that takes advantage of that discretion. The statute, which is 15.2-1716, reads that a locality may provide by ordinance that a person convicted of violating any of the following provisions, which are also listed in the packet, shall be liable to the locality for any responding volunteer, fire company, or department volunteer for restitution of reasonable expenses. And then it goes on to say, personal liability under this section for reasonable expenses of an appropriate emergency response pursuant to subsection A shall not exceed $1,000 in the aggregate. And in determining reasonable expenses, a locality may bill a flat fee of $350 an hour, and that's the change of the code, or minute by minute accounting of the actual costs incurred. So the statute just lets the county make that decision about whether they're going to go with 350 or minute by minute, up to 1,000 on a case-by-case basis. And the way your ordinance is written is to just give you as much discretion as possible.
I'm going to open the public hearing. The public hearing for, public hearing for proposed amendments to Chapter 15, Article 3, Sections 15-20 Code of Caroline County reimbursement of expenses incurred in responding to a DUI incidences and other traffic incidences. Anyone wishing to speak on this public hearing? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Last call. Public hearing is closed. Any further discussion?
Mr. Seelig, was adding the code 46T-341.24 advertised? Can we add that? Was that part of the public notification?
I actually had that underlined because I had a tough time finding it and wondered the same thing. Was that advertised, Mr.
I just
Parker?
want to make sure it was
Was what advertised, I'm sorry?
The 46.2-341.24 being added?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take a motion if there's no further discussion.
I move that we amend Chapter 15, Article 3, 15-20 of the Code of Carolina, reimbursement expenses occurring to the responding to DUI incidents and other traffic incidents.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion?
And the additional code is part of that motion?
Yes, because it was advertised.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Agenda item number 6. Mr. Pardon your popular.
So the last of what I call the kitchen sink ordinance amendments. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Code of Virginia allows localities to impose a local sales tax of 1% in conjunction with the sales tax levied by the Commonwealth of Virginia. And as you know, the state has been collecting and remitting to Caroline County its 1% share of the sales tax for many decades, as it has for, I believe, all other localities in Virginia. However, it was recently discovered that the online version of the county code does not contain a local ordinance declaring the county's intent to collect the local sales tax. Staff believes that a previous board very likely adopted this decades ago, but it simply wasn't included in the online version for some reason. And rather than go back and do all the research to try to figure out when that may have been adopted, we believe after consulting with the county attorney that the best thing to do is just adopt the actual ordinance that is proposed in your packet. Again, I want to stress that the ordinance before you simply codifies what is already in place. It does not create a new tax. It does not increase an existing tax. It simply codifies what is already in place.
Questions before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Parson, before you go,
Yes, sir.
are we saying that the county has been missing its return of online tax from the state?
I would like to be able to say that, but no.
Okay.
We've been getting it, we just don't, the ordinance is missing.
Okay. That's all I wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
And nobody else is being charged anymore with this, so.
It's just putting a piece of code, we're missing one because we're already collecting it. I'm going to open the public hearing on the proposed amendment of Chapter 103 of the Code, of the County Code Taxation to add local sales tax language that's missing currently. Public comment, public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Any additional comments from board members? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt amend Chapter 103 regarding taxation of the Carolina Code, adding Article 18 regarding retail sales tax.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Agenda item number 7.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Your fourth public hearing tonight is for an ordinance to amend 93-1 schedule of the sewer and water fees. In 2000, the county entered into an agreement with the town of Bowling Green to accept and treat up to 45,000 gallons of wastewater. In 2001, the county began construction of 2 sewer pump stations and 11,850 feet of 4-inch sewer force main to convey sewage from the Bowling Green Elementary School and the Bowling Green Primary School to Bowling Green. In 2005, the Brookwood subdivision was approved to construct 203 new homes wherein the sewer would be conveyed through the county's wastewater conveyance system and discharged into the town of Bowling Green's wastewater plant for treatment. From the inception of that project, it was determined that the long-term solution for the wastewater treatment was to pump it to the county's regional wastewater treatment plant. As such, an availability fee has been proposed in the amount of $11,600 for each new residential connections to the Milford sewer system. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions or comments before the public hearing? Hearing none, I now open the public hearing for proposed amendment to Chapter 93-1 of the Code of Caroline County, Schedule Water and Sewer Fee. And this is for Milford, correct?
Just a minute.
Just Milford.
Correct.
Okay, just the Milford system. Public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Last call. Anyone wishing to speak? Hearing none? Public hearing is now closed.
Move we adopt the schedule.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I say the motion carries. Agenda item number 8. I do believe that is...
She's right there.
She's right there. Wendy, Mrs. Sneed is here from Social Services. Part of this is missing in our packet, by the way. Schedule. Okay, we are back with, I believe, an update on the actual policy for being able to provide auto repairs and gas cards, I believe.
Yes, several different types of transportation assistance that we proposed. I provided for our discussion last 2 meetings ago, when I was here, provided 2 options. One that would provide assistance for those who are either employed or in education or training leading to employment. And a second option being for those simply who meet the income guidelines.
Ms. Nathan?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question, because I read this, because you're the expert on this, what do you recommend, option, from your point of view, option 1 or option 2?
I think that really depends on what audience you're trying to reach by providing funds. I know you're asking me the question, but our experience has been in providing this type of assistance to those who are in our employment services program.
So that would be option 1.
So we're more accustomed to those who meet more of the qualifications of option 1, but I wanted to provide a different option depending on what audience you wanted to reach.
Ms. Lee, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
And I want to make sure I correctly understand what we're trying to do. And your program would really work for the people who are not employed or are getting some sort of assistance from you already, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You wouldn't need to, a citizen wouldn't have to pre-qualify by being part of one of our programs. And in fact, we want to make sure that they're not eligible for the VIEW program through TANF or the limited assistance that the state is now providing for SNAP recipients. It only applies to a very narrow population of the SNAP recipients. So we're not talking about a lot of people. So we're really trying to reach the people that aren't part of that, and they may very likely not be receiving any assistance from us.
Okay, and I kind of understand
Black was trying to do, and we lost Fred or didn't fund Fred for their, whatever reason. And I'm concerned about the people that I saw who were taking Fred, who may have been the working poor, or may have been the people who were trying to move a little higher up towards, middle class or whatever.
Sure.
Are we going to be able to take care of those kind of people with this program?
My vision of this program would be to help those individuals who can drive or can maintain some sort of transportation but have a barrier that we can help them overcome. I don't believe it would be something that would help someone who is incapable, who has limitations that keep them from driving at all, or can't provide any transportation for themselves. I don't see it as a maintenance program where we're helping someone all the time. I see it as more one-time assistance or once-a-year assistance to help someone to overcome a barrier and then move on to be able to get where they need to go.
And that may really be where we are, is without Fred, we have so many different things we need to fix. This may be one of those we need to fix. This is not necessarily going to fix the guy that I used to see at the gas station back here every day on his way to Carmel Church to work.
Right. Depending on why he was there.
Well, he didn't have a car, so not having a car, he rode the bus for $1, and this program is not going to be able to help him, or the guy who used to see at Subway who was doing the
Well,
same
I don't know. If he's able to drive, we can help him. Because part of this program is, if you find a cheap car that runs, we'll help you get it. Because that's what we do through our VIEW program, so it's the exact same thing I'm proposing with this.
It solves a portion of the greater need that we have.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Long?
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for putting this together. I'm leaning, well, two things. One, I'm leaning toward option 2, simply because I've sent people who needed gas cards to go pick up prescriptions, but they're not, they don't qualify because they're a little above. They don't qualify for the 10. And so this would help that between people. I know it's not much, but we could try. I do want to just mention, and I was going to do it in closing comments, but I have spoken to Lee Anderson at GWRC, who does the commuter beds, that type of thing, about the issue. And she's running through a couple of ideas. I just today got a date from her. I haven't talked to staff about seeing what some of her ideas for rural fill gap transportation might be. So maybe we do this now to fit this slot, and we work on something to fit the bigger slot with them. So I would lean for option 2.
Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at option 1 and 2, the reality is we need to address both issues for those who are eligible.
What I would say is option 2 would include everyone who's in option 1. It just opens it up wider and doesn't have the work or education or training requirements. It just sets an income standard.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Black, your microphone's still on.
Yeah, no, I was going to make a motion.
Always in order.
I will compromise with Ms. Long. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve option 2.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? One of the things I will say is that the Social Services Board hasn't looked at this yet. So we have to figure out how we're going to actually implement this. So that'll be a discussion at our board meeting next week. Just a data point for everybody here. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Number 9 doesn't require any action, I understand, as long as there's no issues.
Correct.
So it was on the agenda, there's nobody here to comment against it. We can just move on, Mr. Fincham. So agenda item number 9 has come and gone. Agenda item number 10.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, next item is the follow-up from a January 14th meeting concerning candidate projects for this round of the smart scale transportation process. Staff talked to representatives of VDOT as well as other interested stakeholders. We've identified a couple of potential projects for the consideration of the board related to potential county smart scale projects. I would remind the board that the town of Bowling Green has been working with GWRC on 1 or 2 potential projects as well. Ms. Linda Millsaps, who's the Executive Director of GWRC, is here this evening. In case you have any questions on what the GWRC and the town have been working on, my suggestion to the board would be any spaces that we don't use, we're allowed up to 4 applications that we can allocate to town for any projects that they want. And finally, there's a brief discussion. There was some discussion, I guess, initiated by King George County concerning a possible joint application with King George for improvements based on Route 207-301 corridor study. I've not talked to anybody in King George about their request, but it seems to me that if we're looking at a true regional discussion, that the 2 towns would need to be included as part of that process as well. It's just my thoughts, my suggestions related to potential projects. With that, I'll address any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. Ms. Long, have you talked with anybody from King George or Mr. Black about any joint project? Because I see some of those folks and they've never mentioned it to me. So.
No, sir, we've only, since the new members have come on, we've only had 1 meeting, so, and there hasn't really been any conversation that I'm aware of, but Ms. Millsap's here, so she can, I know they had a meeting today, but dates were not passed through us, and today was not the best day for staff to be gone.
Wasn't this part of when they talked about creating an MPO for us? I remember that was the original part of the discussion a while back, and creating as in FAMPO, we don't vote for part of it, we don't vote, King George is part of it, they don't vote. And we need at least 3, so we're talking about adding Port Royal and Bowling Green. So maybe that was the original discussion that they had to follow up on.
What was the original discussion today?
Well, probably before the morning.
But it had a little low light.
Yep, that's right. And sorry about my low shoes. I have an injury, so I have to wear flat shoes. So sorry. You should see a little. I'm Linda Millsaps with the George Washington Regional Commission. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, when we started the smart scale process at GWRC and FAMPO, one of the ideas that was brought forward, actually at the suggestion of some folks from VDOT who had looked at all of the work that's been done over the years, and suggested there might be an opportunity for King George and Caroline to submit a single application related to crossovers recommended through, I believe it was the STAR study, around 301. And at that time, we were discussing maybe 10 to 12 crossovers combined between the 2 jurisdictions. And the thought was, if there was interest on you all's part and King George's part in doing that,
We would help facilitate that, and the thought was also that that would likely score a little better if it included both jurisdictions. So there has been some email back and forth, and I've been trying to corral not just the two sets of CAOs, but also the other jurisdictions in GWRC around their smart scale proposals, because those regional runs run through our office. So we had tried to schedule some earlier meetings, ended up settling on today, and so we met with King George and VDOT today. Unfortunately, the folks from your staff were unable to join us, and so we've so far moved ahead with the King George one, but if you all have interest in trying to add on to that, we could maybe do that, but we would have to do it very quickly, because as you probably heard Lynn mention to you, VDOT's looking at about 50 applications in this residency, and so they're a limit to help out. They are limited in their ability to help out. We're a little limited, but we want to bring this to you one last time to see if that's something you want to pursue.
One of the things I can guarantee, and I think I would get unanimous support, is closing our crossovers is not going to happen. I know that has been a big topic of discussion since the 301-207 corridor study. That was one of the main interests, was to actually eliminate those. And I will tell you that eliminating those is not something anybody's interested in, for the repercussions of you give up something and what you get back would not be a benefit. So I'm not sure where King George is in that, and I drive through one to King George every day. My guess is they're probably scratching their heads of whether they're willing to give up any crossovers either. Just because, and I'll say from the school bus perspective of how they use those crossovers, a school bus doesn't have more than 2 pickups on Route 301, and they make the pickup and they get to that left lane and they make a turn in that crossover over to a crossroad so that they're not on 301, so that you don't end up with a miles worth of traffic behind school buses, which has been a real problem. So from that perspective, I don't know what they talked about jointly, and it would have been fair to say, Mr. Collins or Mr. Finchman, that, we haven't even discussed that. We do have a couple of projects, well, 3 in particular in the board packet, maps for them. I'm sure everybody's looked at those. Well, both of these, most of these are probably Mr. Tom.
The other one is...
The one of these is down off of, I can't say the name of the road.
Nelson Hill is Mattapanai.
Okay.
And
The other one.
639 is Mattapanai. Oh, yeah, the park is Mattapanai too.
Correct, they're all. And the 639 project, I will tell you, having go that way quite often, is probably the one that is, to me, the highest safety issue going. People miss that stop sign. I have witnessed it a couple of times in the dark, that even though there's the lines in the road and there's the stop sign ahead, I watched people actually completely miss the stop sign and get across 207 to the crossover before they realize where they are.
Yeah.
So
if we were prioritizing, that would be 1. Nelson Hill Road would be 2, because there's been a fatality there, and the 3rd would be a walking trail at the park.
Well, and the thing, Mr. Fincham, though, is a couple of years ago, one of the things we need to look at, and I agree with you 100%, that's where I've got a number, 1, 2, and 3. A couple of years ago, we had help from VDOT on how well they would score. In other words, like what VDOT thought and so forth. I mean, one of the things that we had been lucky the first 2 years of Smart Scale. We put basically a lot of the other localities were having the shotgun approach. We're just going to throw stuff against the wall, see what sticks. And where Caroline used the laser approach, we're going to go for one project and we're going to put all in our eggs in this one basket. And it worked for us the first 2 years of Smart Scale. I mean, it was the first 2 applications that we put in. It did work for us on the one down in 207 last year, Carmel Church. Yeah.
That's kind of a beat-up proposal.
But I think one of the things that we need to look at is which one of these, and I agree that it's number 1, but we're not the ones who rate this. you know, I mean, and that becomes an issue too. Like, I mean, let's put in something that's, let's put in a project that we have a realistic shot of getting. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm very uncomfortable with the King George thing, just because of the fact that I understand the regional approach, but regional approach 2 days before it's due, or 3 days before it's due, I have a hard time getting into that. So I guess, for me, do we know on these, because these are due coming up, these are due coming up like real soon, right?
My discussions with VDOT staff indicated that they thought the pedestrian improvements would score fairly well, given the school traffic and,
So number 3 over number, what we would see is, number 1 for me, I got to admit, was the 639.
I think 639 would be...
And 207, having witnessed several times, cars just absolutely not realizing they had to stop.
But at the same time, on a smart scale, I think Fredericksburg got bike paths last year, didn't they? Or they got trails or something in Fredericksburg.
There was funding, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And you have intersections that are dangerous. We're getting bike, I mean, not, God bless them, wonderful for them. But you have intersections around that are not getting funded, and then we've got a bike path in Fredericksburg that's getting funded.
Lynn, do you have any insight into, could we get by with safety at 639 and 207? Is there enough info on that to actually get us a scoring high enough in safety for that?
So the scoring is a multi-pronged approach.
Right.
And so part of that is also the amount of money. I'm not sure at this point how much the county is planning to put any money towards these. You do get an increased score if you're willing to bring that cost down overall. But the way Smart Scale's been running the past cycle was that the lower cost projects have scored higher. So that's why we brought the pedestrian access, because it's a fairly low cost project that has pedestrian implications that does score well in Smart Scale right now. And I'm sure Dr. Millsap could definitely speak to this more as well. But it is just there's a multi-pronged approach. It's very complicated. It has a lot of different aspects that help weight projects higher and lower, but there is this return on investment aspect as far as what the county or what the municipality is going to put forward to help buy that cost down across the state.
You know, one of our dilemmas right now is we've got Smart Scale project on 639 between Route 1 and 95, and we've got to come up with 6.2 or 3 billion between, we've got to finish paying for that. A little over 2 million between now and next May. So funding a project for us right now is a little on the difficult side, to say the least.
Let's just go with the safety one, because that's the realistic one.
And just
Well, let me ask you a question, why can't you put in both of them?
So you have 5 pre-applications that you can put in as the county. And so as of March 1st, when the when that opens, you have 5 applications you could put in. And then 4 full applications will be submitted.
Mr. Finchon, can we get all 3 of these in?
That's why he recommended it, because he could do it.
Yes, sir.
I think the consensus I'm hearing, rather than belaboring this, let's go with all 3.
Mr. Finchon, if there's any data that you can get on the intersection, the accidents on that 207, that's really probably the most important one.
Yeah.
Yes, that data collection will be part of the process.
Okay. Can I have a motion to
So moved. Second.
All in favor of agenda item number 10, all 3 options?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, are you going to allow Bowling Green to utilize the...
Well, we only have 3, so I don't think there's any issue with them using 2. We're doing all 3 of ours. Yeah, we'll give them the option of the other 2.
Okay.
So you're all set?
As follow-up for that, we would also request from Caroline County, since you would be submitting on behalf of the town of Bowling Green, if we could get some sort of correspondence about which 2 projects you want us to proceed with the town by Friday.
They should be able to tell us which 2.
Right, but because Caroline County is the submitting authority, we would ask them to come from you all and have that direction provided to us.
Mr. Cully, can you talk with the town manager?
So the 2 that we have are Broadus and then 301 and Chase Street. But we just want to make sure that that's...
Are they going to close Broadus? Oh no, Broadus is actually adding a lane. That's the main one.
They need to do Chase, it's dangerous.
We'll find out from the town what their
So I think if that's just a letter from you, Mr. Cully, that's fine. We just ask that we get formal
Yeah.
notification so we can proceed.
Because they all have to come from the county.
Correct.
Now, I'm willing to trade one of my crossovers on 207 for some more lane miles on Golden Shore Road. Will that work?
You didn't know that you were planning to make a deal.
I don't think that project would score well in,
I could trade two crossovers on 207 for more lane miles on Golden Shore Road.
I take him out, because people with crossovers are a big deal. Are we good?
Yes.
Thank you both for being here tonight. I keep forgetting you were on the agenda up later. We had you endure a lot more time, so thank you for your patience.
3 crossovers.
He'll make it all.
No, that's the last one.
Agenda item number 11. And I do believe this is Mr. Underwood's.
Board members, I wanted to update you on an issue that was brought before this board on September 19th, where a letter was sent to 4 of the 6 board members making false allegations against myself, which I then filed suit in the court of Caroline County. And we reached a settlement, and one of the conditions of the settlement was that an apology letter be issued. At this time, I'd like to read that letter to the board. The letter comes from Ms. Tammy Giles, who lives in Ruther Glen, to Reginald L. Underwood, also from Ruther Glen. The letter reads as follows. Dear Mr. Underwood, I want to express my sincere apology to you for the letter I sent to members of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors September 2019, which suggested and implied that you engaged in improper conduct. I wrote that letter without any proof and without any justifiable reason to believe that you had sought or ever received free or discounted work from an employee of Caroline County. I know that you did nothing of the sort. I acknowledge and understand that the allegations and inferences in my letter were misleading and not based on any facts. I also recognize that my letter calls county officials and employees to investigate my false allegation and calls the board of supervisors to devote time and attention to my unfounded accusations. I apologize for taking the time and for necessitating the use of the county resources as a result of my lapse of judgment. Again, my sincere apology for my actions. Sincerely, Tammy Giles. I want to say that for me, and I accept her apology, but words do matter. And probably one of the most argumentative persons on this board, I think, is myself. Yeah, Jim. But I'm not going to discourage or make false accusations regarding anyone. And I don't tolerate it. I do not tolerate it. We can agree to disagree, but I will not be defamed in any way whatsoever by anyone. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to say regarding this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Agenda item number 12, the results of request for proposal for financing. Oh, he is here.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. How are y'all?
Before we get started, I've got to explain to the rest of the board some of what happened in this. Y'all authorized us to seek financing on the CAD records management system and generators on a number of buildings. While we were out with that, and since the last meeting, Mr. Shebel's track loader at the landfill died. It was in 1994. It's been extensively rebuilt over the years. So the repairs were in the $20,000 range with no guarantees, so we weren't sure we might be into the $40,000 range for repairing a 1994 track loader that we do use 6 days a week on the brush pile that we maintain at the landfill. So while it's not used in moving dirt and closed landfill operation. It is used every day except, I think, Sunday, but I may have that day wrong, but it's used 6 days a week. So we did ask Davenport to see if the banks would add that in on a 7-year note, and they have included that. So we do have this 2 ways, one the way you approved, and one if you would graciously allow us to add in the financing for this loader. We have, in the past, when it's broken down, tried to use a rubber-tired backhoe tractor. It does not work well. It does need a track machine, one with some size to it. We're buying a smaller unit if you allow us to, than what's currently out there, but still that is about $240,000. Skid prices do. But in fact, this one has been there since 1994. None of us will be buying any one of those anytime soon. And it was run really hard when the landfill was in operation, and not run as hard now is why it has lasted as long as it has. Joey can tell you how many hours on it. It's a bazillion. 12,000 some odd hours on this machine. So we would request it at all. We do have really good financing rates, and probably our repair building will pay the debt service at least 2 years of the 7 on a new. And obviously, if we were to fix it, I'm not guaranteeing we won't be back asking for additional money for the transmission and other things. Because what's worn out, they know until they pull it apart, they don't know why they wore out. What's further in the transmission that caused it to have a problem. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Sorry, but I needed to fill them in on that because if you started in on that, you all would have known.
That's not good. That is not good.
First down since the last week.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for your time this evening. As Charlie mentioned, I will be presenting the results of the recovery proposals process for the county's equipment lease financing. If you turn to the second page here, as well as the third page, we just have a quick market update for you. As you can see in these 2 charts, the interest rates are currently still at historic lows. You see there on this page the 20-year tax-exempt yield curve over the last 20 years, as well as since 2016. As you can see, we're still in the downslope, which is very good and is a contributing factor to the very strong rates the county saw this evening. This page here, page number 3, presents more of the same. It charts the current yield curve, and then the bar chart along the bottom shows the percentage of days since 2000 that interest rates have been lower than the current levels. And as you can see, out from about year 6 all the way through year 30, they're nearly as low as they've ever been. So going on to this page, just an overview. As Mr. Tully mentioned, on the 23rd, we distributed a request for proposals for the original project, which was the records management system and computer-aided dispatch system for the sheriff's office, as well as the emergency generator backup system for a total project cost of a little bit over $800,000. We requested rates for both 5 and 7-year amortization terms to provide the county some flexibility in their choice on what they would like to finance the project over. Moving on to the next page, you'll see here that we've got 8 very strong proposals. We've highlighted here the JP Morgan rate of 1.835%. You'll see that it is about 9.5 basis points higher than the one right above it. The one that we have recommended here, the 1.835, has the more flexible prepayment provision rather than the lower rate, which is a little bit more penalizing, but the dollar difference is not too substantial. So we would recommend moving forward with the 1.835 rate from JP Morgan. And on the next page here, we have summarized the JP Morgan proposal in a little bit more detail. There in the top line, you'll see the originally approved amount of $860,000. As Mr. Cully mentioned, we did go back to them and ask if we could include the additional $240,000 project cost for the loader, and they did give us the approval for that, so we are good on that front if you all would like to move forward with that. Repeated here, just the prepayment. You all can prepay this after 12 months with no penalty, just a typical par call plus accrued interest. The amortization term is 7 years. We've highlighted in our conversations with staff, we understand that that is most closely matches the useful life of the equipment that will be acquired here. So the 7-year rate is the one that we are showing. It is subject to final credit approval. They're in that process right now, but we don't expect any issues from them from that perspective. And they've given us a closing deadline of February 25th, which is well within our expectation of when we'll be able to get that finalized. Moving here on to the next page, this is just an estimated debt service schedule for $860,000, which includes the original project of the generators, as well as the record management system and computer-aided dispatch system, as well as issuance costs. You can see here over the 7-year term, it's about $130,000 for total debt service costs of about $915,000 over the life of the loan. Continuing here onto the next page, we have highlighted what the additional debt service costs would be if the board chose to include the cat loader in this. As you can see, it's about $36,000 annually, and if you add that amount on top of the other projects as well as the issuance costs, your total annual debt service would be about $167,000 or $1.1 million over the life of the loan. And this is all run still at that 1.835% rate, which JP Morgan offered the county.
The CAD system's also at 7 years?
Yes.
Everything's on a 7-year schedule?
That is correct. Just going here to our recommendation, just sort of as a recap of what we've already said, the JP Morgan proposal offered the lowest rate for the 7-year amortization option. The interest rate that they offered is fixed until final maturity, which eliminates future interest rate risk that would be associated with a non-fixed rate. The rate is fixed between now and closing, so no risk between now and the 25th of that shifting at all, as long as we close by that date. And then the 7-year amortization option, like I said, closely matches the useful life of the asset. Prepayment, JP Morgan permits for prepayment after 1 year with no penalty, and they have not included any JP Morgan bank-related closing costs on their end in their bid. So with that, balance of February, if you all adopted the resolution authorizing this to move forward.
The 200,000 is in here on page 7? Is that
correct? Yes, the 240,000. That is the debt service, the additional debt service on that cat loader, and then the aggregate debt service is off to the right, which would encompass the whole project.
So that would be, the debt service would be 167
all total.
Up a year for 7 years.
My bag.
I mean, the load, good luck or bad luck, you know, we were in the middle of doing this and their interest rate's low. It's a piece of equipment we're not going to be able to live without. Do we have a motion to actually, what motion do we actually need to do this?
What I've got for here is a resolution. I've got 8 copies. You adopt this resolution. I brought one with the cat loader and without. I'm going to distribute the one with the cat loader. So it shows the addition of the cat loader and the increase to 1.1. Okay, I've got 8 copies here. But what you will need to do, if you want to authorize this, is adopt this resolution for your effects date. Deny your fund.
Right.
This is the resolution. This was sent before, but this is the resolution just so you can have it in your hand now. This is what you'd be adopting. Feel free to take the time.
Mr. Black,
I just got one question to read.
Okay.
It's from Major Moser, actually. It says, right here, the RMS system you guys were getting. With this system in place, the sheriff's office personnel will no longer have to re-enter data from handwritten summons. Who's doing that right now? Our records management bureaus. So you're saying this is a savings? Saying they don't have to re-enter. You're saying this is a savings, right? It certainly causes them not to re-enter the data.
Time efficiency.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. They have other jobs like back up the record system to some other type of system so that we can store it efficiently because we're running out of room now. All right, yes. Thank you, Commissioner, I appreciate it.
Anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Blau?
We need to accept the resolution.
We need to accept this resolution with the adopt this resolution for financing for the record management system and the loader and the generators.
All right, I move that the adopt a resolution of the Caroline County approving equipment lease financing JP Moore option with the cat loader.
What's the,
For the CAT system and the generator.
with the generators? Where do you see
In
it?
the amount of $1.1 million.
$1.1 million.
The amount of $1.1 million.
Yeah. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Nancy, second.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have, motion carried, you were successful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
And Mr. Shebel, you now will be the owner of something new and getting rid of something very old. Agenda item number 13. If you want to, you could probably go drive it. Mr. Shebel, can Mrs. Long come drive that when it comes to Olin?
No, I was thinking, yeah, drive the old first, start on the old. Okay, let's work our way up.
Mr. Finch.
I won't be there for that, Mr. Seeley.
You sure?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next agenda item is, I guess, a couple of follow-up items for consideration from your Belmont West proffer amendment. The applicant is proceeding forward with their BHDA application for the first phase of their project. There are two items in the application process that the applicant is requesting board's attention. Item number one is the designation of the property as a revitalization area. The standards for what qualifies as a revitalization area are included in your staff report, and I took the liberty of crossing out the first item, which obviously the property does not meet that condition.
Mr. Finch, in my reading of this, I don't see how it meets the second condition.
Okay, well
It's a barren piece of property with a housing development around it and an industrial park that's thriving near it.
Okay.
The way I read this was to revitalize would have to actually encumber some other piece of something that would be removed, is how I read this. I just don't, if you can get us there.
Mr. Chairman, that's fine. The request is for board action. It's a board decision as to whether the board believes that it meets the definition of a revitalization area or not.
Did you or Mr. Wilson forward this with a recommendation of yes?
No, sir. There's no recommendation. It's just the requested items from the applicant. Yes, sir. And he's here tonight to address these two items for the board, if you have any questions.
What's the staff recommendation?
We've not prepared one at this time.
What's your personal opinion?
We did visit, staff and at least one board member visited a couple of sites, and one site related to this issue actually was a vacant piece of property, and that governing body, as part of the application, adopted the resolution designating that property as such.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Floyd, you have...
Is there recourse for labeling something that's, is there an official definition in the VHDA or in the Code of Virginia or anything regarding this?
The definition in the Code of Virginia is what I included in staff in the report.
Okay.
Mr. Foran, that's what we have to go by.
And this is consistent with what the expectations of the BHDA definition would be? I mean, BHDA, or I'm sorry, USDA being a national program and state code being a...
I did not poll USDA in terms of what they specifically they accepted. I can only tell you one of the sites I visited was a vacant piece of property in another locality that successfully had a VHDA LIHTC application.
So what's the financial risk or the financial loss by giving them a tax abatement? Does anybody know?
It relates to the application for the LIHTC program.
He gets bonus points.
He gets bonus points, and each project is evaluated based upon meeting the points within the application process. So obviously the highest point garnering applications get the funding for those projects.
Mr. Wilson, do you have an opinion?
It was more comfortable in that seat.
No doubt, but I'm sitting in this one, and
Yes, sir.
you're in that one, and you get to have an opinion.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. It's been, I confess, quite some time since I read the definition the governing agency has for this. It seemed to me at the time a bit of a stretch. However, I think what we're talking about is the will of the board. If you want to see this project move forward, this will help them. And frankly, if it was too much of a stretch, I think the governing agency reviewing this would make their own determination to make it work.
Let me ask you a tougher question. When you start doing revitalization, we're getting ready to go into reassessment. What will this do to our composite index when they start seeing revitalization of property? Since that's a battle that we're going to fight nonstop from here on out. And that's one of the things that bothers me about actually saying this, is that we're actually talking about it like we're actually ripping out something to make it better.
Ripping up trees.
Yeah, they'll look at value.
We already
Looking to increase.
lost the battle for composite for 2 years.
Does the applicant have anything to add?
Well, the tax abatement thing says deferral. It doesn't actually say I'm letting you not pay your taxes. It says deferral.
Mr. Fincham?
The tax abatement is actually the second issue. Which the request for the tax abatement under the program is a 2-year abatement, which basically begins when the construction of the project is initiated, and it continues for a 2-year period thereafter. And per Mr. Weller, the actual request is not for 100% abatement of taxes, but up to a 50% abatement of those taxes. And he has prepared cost estimates for what that would be.
Those weren't in our board packet, correct?
No, sir. I just got those this afternoon. It is.
And again, his application is due next month.
Yes, sir. And with respect to the abatement, you'd actually have to have a public hearing to abate those taxes. So that would have to come back to the board in the form of a public hearing at your March 11th meeting. From staff's perspective, it did not make sense to advertise a public hearing on an item, if the board wasn't interested in going forward.
Mr. Fincham, is it, looking at this, the revitalization, if the grant writers said being a rural county, this piece of property would pass for revitalization, which having someone tell us that would make me feel a lot better than us guessing. that actually will get more points on his application, correct? That's the higher than...
Yes, I believe that was a 15-point total.
So 2040.
Yes, that's a 15-point total. And the tax abatement was a 5-point total.
Just that they could be the way the points, because that's what's going to get them the grants. when we do this.
I mean, if I may weigh in, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Black?
I mean, we approved this project for public hearing, and the idea behind this project, I would imagine, would be to bring in the housing for new teachers, firefighters, police, people that are maybe starting out their careers in those professions. And since we approved the project, I mean, I think we were saying that we want this in the county. I think we have to do anything to help him out now that we've approved it. Because we have literally, when we look at, we don't have a lot here in Caroline for that population. And we're losing that population to surrounding jurisdictions. I mean, a young teacher, a young firefighter, they go to spots, they live in other jurisdictions rather than, because they don't want to buy a house right away, they want an apartment. So, I mean, to me, we have to do what we can to help the...
Give Mr. Waller a 30-second elevator pitch.
Mr. Forehand?
Mr. Fincham, I'm looking at the definition where the first half's marked through. Yes, sir. And I could see us, if there's industrial, commercial, or other economic development in the area, to benefit, such area lacks housing needs. I think we fit into that category, especially with the large facilities that are going right next to it. So that part of it, I really don't have the issue with. Again, the revitalization is, I guess, my internal definition doesn't seem to fit it, but it seems to fit what's in bold print here to some degree.
That's the options that I think the HCD gives you to categorize a project into one of those areas or the other, one or the other.
But this is their definition, not ours.
That's their definition, yes, sir.
When I say there, I mean USDA.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we give Mr. Waller 30 seconds to convince me, please?
Supervisor Thomas, did you have a specific question, or?
No, I was saying, can you convince me to do this in 30 seconds?
I do not have the HUD language in front of me. My reading of it was that that the site does meet the criteria. I haven't looked at it today, but the last time I looked at it a few weeks ago, I didn't have any question in my mind. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a housing attorney, but I didn't see any question about it. What I did focus on today was answering questions about the tax abatement and the figures involved there. If you want me to get into that, I can certainly get into those figures. I made them as straightforward as I possibly could, kind of in a waterfall fashion. And I can go through that calculation by calculation. But to sum it up, over 2 years, my estimate of the abatement, if it were fully calculated out, is $120,000. But it doesn't, VHDA does not require that the entire amount of the abatement be fulfilled by the county. So what we've trying to reach is this significance threshold of about 50% of that. So what we're requesting is that the abatement be capped at $30,000 per year, a total of $60,000, which would be about 50% of the otherwise totally calculated abatement of $120,000. Here again, this is a 2-year abatement, beginning with approximately groundbreaking and running through both construction and lease-up until the project is essentially stabilized. Jen Server and Supervisor Thomas, I know you've heard me talk about her, who is working with me on the project. She continues to emphasize this is not hardly at all about the cost savings to the project, but it's almost entirely about the points. And that particular tax abatement only gets 5 points, but as Ms. Server has told me in the past, she has lost the project by 1/10 of a point. So every point is vital in this very competitive process.
You just said you were made aware of this 3 weeks ago or so, something like that?
Of which?
You were discussing this 3 weeks ago, or you knew something? You said 3 weeks, that piqued my interest.
Well, no, these issues, these 2 requests I brought up many, many months ago. In fact, those were part of my original request. And those have been part of your board packets going back many, many months.
June 11th.
Mr. Waller did bring these up at the June 11th board meeting.
When the project first came to
When the project first came to the board, yes, sir.
Mr. Finch?
Mr. Forgan?
I think estimating a unit assessment for $120,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment seems really high to me.
The assessed value?
The assessed value.
Well, I set the assessed value at what current construction costs are.
What do you think, John?
And so that is,
When I'm willing to buy an apartment building and I'm paying more than $55,000 per 2-bedroom unit, I'm not buying it.
but I can tell you that cap rates on apartments have fallen sub-6 and sometimes sub-5. Cobblestone, a project I was at one time involved with, recently traded for almost $200,000. The last trade was $195,000 per unit. So apartments,
I gotta recalibrate that.
yeah, it's eye-popping what the numbers are these days. Now, here again, this is a tax credit project, it's slightly different, but I think the $120,000 figure is probably pretty darn accurate.
Mr. Waller, I may or may not agree with this project, or this particular part of the project, but the potential of having a place where our new teachers could be, our new firefighter EMS people, our new sheriff deputies could be, people that may not be able to afford a home or normal rent could have an opportunity here. And I think, which is kind of dangerous, but I think that this would give us a better project if we go with this. I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with your request to grant the temporary tax exemption and the designation of a revitalization area. So that's my motion.
Second.
I didn't think we could do the tax exemption without having a public hearing.
Well, we have to go back to that stage for the public hearing.
Okay, to move forward with the public hearing.
Right.
And to approve the revitalization label.
Right.
So what is the motion, Mr. Stein?
The motion will be to move forward with the temporary tax exemption, which means a public hearing at our next board meeting, and to allow the designation of a revitalization area for the ward.
Okay.
So you have to have your proposal ready to go based on whether we approve it or not at our next meeting in March.
Yes, sir. The meeting is the 10th or the 11th? I believe our submission deadline is the following day, but
But you make sure you got 2 copies.
we'll do our best to have all our ducks in a row.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I say call.
Meeting's at 10.
Second to
I'll just let everybody finish. I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I say the motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item 14.
Good evening, members of the board. Before you tonight is a request from the Department of Fire and Rescue to upgrade the audio-visual system at the EOC. As many of you are aware from your time in there, our system is old and antiquated. Some of our input-outputs don't work, some of our TVs don't work, and we're seeking to upgrade that system to a 4K digital system using only grant funds, both the Dominion Power as well as the LEMPG grant, which are both for EOC upgrades. That system is used by a variety of people inside now.
It's your turn to say. It's your turn to say.
Yes, great presentation.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we upgrade the audiovisual components of the EOC.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
If you get grant funding for the budget,
Mr. Sheehan?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The last agenda item tonight is for an approval of a task contract with WW & Associates to perform architectural services on the new proposed fire station in Carmel Church. In this year's budget, we had allocated $200,000 the board had approved. We've already spent $89,000, or allocated $89,500 for engineering services to survey the property, utilities, entrances for VDOT, stormwater calculations, and this is actually for the architectural services to actually perform the building, to be able to give us specifications and plans to be able to actually move forward with bidding the facility out once the funds are approved. I am asking tonight that you approve the task contract with WW Associates and an additional appropriation of $34,500 will be needed from the undesignated general fund balance to pay for the remaining architectural services.
Mr. Sheeple, you know, we went through a little episode with the visitor center with treasures we found buried. Have we done any sort of, were we going to do any soil borings to make sure we're not going to find any buried treasure when we get into this?
Yes, we were hoping to have the property information in front of you tonight to be able to move forward with that. That will be at your next meeting, so we're not going to move forward with this until that's done, so hopefully that'll happen at the next meeting.
So we're just going to table this for tonight?
Yeah. Closed meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we got a closed meeting. We'll take care of this then.
motion to approve.
No, not till after. No,
Pending or closing.
Pending, we already have a task contract approved for part of it that was pending the land. We haven't done anything with that yet because we don't have the land. We're just adding, we're stacking
We're
this
just
one on top of
adding
it.
$30-some thousand that we want to add on.
I got you.
So the motion would be to approve pending the outcome of our land purchase, which we will discuss later on in the meeting. That's what the closed meeting is.
Right. I read that.
So, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Beforehand, even better.
They're calling me back. I'm sorry. I checked out for a second. I'm back in.
Oh, we got a motion and a second to approve the task order for Carmel Church Fire Station pending the land purchase.
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 15B, and I was going to make this easy. If we'll approve a resolution to go to AP, and I'm not sure how to actually do this.
It's hunting and fishing.
But it's hunting and fishing, and it should go to the Army and Congressman Whitman.
Who did we get it from? Did we get it from Whitman or we get it from the Hill?
We got it from both places. But that's why I think the resolution needs to be one to AP Hill and one to Rob Whitman about AP Hill's lack of access. And we'll have Mr. Parr write it, and I'll gladly come sign it when it's done if we'll approve a resolution to actually inquire and get resolution to why access has been restricted. Actually, I got an email I haven't had time to read because I was coming here this evening. I will do that. It actually lays out the code. It lays out the code that actually is being violated. It's 670A Cooperative Plan for Conservation and Rehabilitation, aka Sykes Act. Secretary of Defense shall carry out a program to provide for conservation and rehabilitation and natural resources on military installations. But I will forward that. This will be the crux of what we actually use as part of the resolution.
Has anyone reached out to Lieutenant Colonel Gates?
Yes, multiple people have.
Any dialogue?
They're spending on, it's a force protection issue, and we have to go to the Lieutenant General to actually get any resolution. We've got to go all the way up to Washington, D.C. to get it. All those other channels have been tried and have not been successful.
Obviously, they've never had to dodge 16 deer across the road.
Correct. So if we could just approve a resolution to park places, and we can get Alan to write it. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Nancy. Jeff Black and Nancy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I say the motion carries. Correct. Before we go to close meetings. Closing board comments, Mr. Forehand.
Just wanted to thank everyone for their understanding and the comments from tonight regarding the unfortunate Facebook posts that I made. It's definitely been a learning opportunity. And just thank you for your patience with that.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mr. Black.
Just want to reiterate what Mr. Thomas said earlier, Department. So our condolences are with you and your family as we go through this. So.
Mrs. Long.
I only have one, and that is somewhat a reply to a comment that was made at the public comment period about my non-comment. I am not a big techie person, and I am not a big Facebook person. Although I had heard what was going on, I tried to get online and follow the conversation trail and got lost somewhere out there. I don't comment on things I haven't read. I just received a copy of the back and forth from Ms. Hall tonight. So my lack of comment was not due to lack of caring. It was, I will not speak on something that I have not educated myself on to the best of my ability, and therefore that was my silence. Hopefully everybody in this county knows me well enough that I don't look at color, I look at souls, to the best of my ability, and I think that's what we all should strive to do, so thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, I failed to mention, second Tuesday of May, I will not be able to attend the meeting. I was hoping that we could take a look at that at the next meeting and possibly move that meeting to Monday instead of Tuesday. It would help me tremendously.
Okay, we can do that at the next meeting.
So, okay.
Everybody look at their calendars.
It will be May the 10th instead of May the 11th. It's the Monday after Mother's Day.
That's what I was thinking. You're going what?
Yeah, wow.
May the 10th is a Sunday.
May the 11th. So our meeting is May the 12th.
So be it.
And I hope we can move it to May the 11th.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Underwood?
Actually, I would prefer that to happen as well, because I have a child's musical that night that I would love to make the 11th that Monday instead of that Tuesday, which is just fine for me.
Okay, if everybody will look at their calendar, I don't think there's going to be a problem moving that. I really don't. Is that?
And even better, you're not getting more positive reasons to. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's the Monday after Mother's Day. It's Monday. I was just thinking of travel, so I'm not sure.
It's going to mess up the.
I would think that we got time.
Yeah, we kind of think about it, it seems like it worked. Just want to put that before the board.
Okay,
Thank you.
that'd be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, we've had a lot of discussion about Facebook comments and things like that, and maybe it's time. I know there was a while back, I saw one of the people that was involved, and I think Mr. Howard might have been involved, but we used to have a community group, ministers, Major Mosier was involved, I do recall, when we had ministers and the sheriff's department people, and we all got together and talked about our differences, and maybe we need to have one event like that sponsored by the county, just to make sure people understand, because we are all different, and some of the things we say may affect people in different ways, and, you know, that's all I'm trying to say. You know, Nancy, it is okay to see color. You stop at a red light. It's how you react to color that makes a difference, and I think that's what we all understand, you know, about you in particular. So, just to have a chance to talk to each other, and I think maybe we need to do an event like that from the county perspective, and I'll look at that further if that's all right. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I don't think I have anything else for this evening, so I will take a motion for closed meeting.
I move that this board now go into closed meeting to discuss matters exempt from open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. The purpose of this closed meeting is as follows. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for the Common Church Fire Station, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, which is exempted pursuant to section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia. Is there a second?
There's a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? We're now in closed meeting.
I would move that we return to our regular meeting and end closed meeting that we've been in.
Wait, Tom said, go to the second page, that disabled one.
Yes.
College recertification.
I move that the board certify to the best of each board's member that only public business lawfully exempt from open meeting was discussed, and only public business matters as were identified in the motion were discussed or considered by the board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and second. Mr. Forehand, do you certify?
Not so certified.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mrs. Long?
I so certified.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas?
I so certify.
And I so certify.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board authorize the chairman or the vice chairman of the board to execute and deliver on behalf of the board the real estate purchase agreement for the purchase of the property for the Carmel Church Fire Station reviewed in closed session with the amendments proposed by the county attorney in closed session and such ancillary agreements, deeds, or other documents as may be necessary effect the purchase of the subject property by the county.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. All in favor? We are